Good evening. You're listening to Radio Flange Goblet, and before we sashay over to our favorite eatery, the After Movie Diner, here's a rundown of some of the other Christmas programs you can enjoy here on Radio Flange Goblet. First up, we return to the courthouse of Judge Santa. The cases are real, the people are real, the setup is tired and forced. We've got elf juggling from Munich, the Touch Rudolph Hour with Bobby Flair. 4 partially drunk middle-aged women discuss if red is a really flattering color for a man of expanding girth on Lady Chat. Reindeer grooming with Bobby Flair. A highly popular reality show based on some people who work in an elevator. It's not really Christmas themed, but it's too popular not to repeat, for some unknown reason. This week it's Floor 31, and the excitement builds as Eric might have accidentally hit 32 by mistake. There's a hard-hitting documentary, The Carolers, all about the dark, seedy underbelly of people who go door-to-door over the season, annoying people with their close harmony singing. And then there's Sleigh Maintenance with Bobby Flair. All I Want for Christmas is some meth. Not sure what that is, but it sounds overly dramatic and gritty for what will ultimately be a depressing tale of really stupid people. Shopping Nightmares with Celia Cleft. Celia talks to old ladies in a rest home in Cleveland who all suffer from shopping-related night terrors, even though none of them have stepped foot in a store for 25 years. There's Just What the Hell is Eggnog Anyway with Bobby Flair. And Have You Been a Good Boy, our weekly game show where we'll drown your son in some hot ink if he doesn't answer some really simple questions properly. All this and more this year on Radio Flange Goblet. And now, the After Movie Diner Christmas Show, which this week comes from the snowy wastes of Honolulu, where the producers assured us there'd be actual snow, but according to their Facebook page, it looks more like there's actually beaches, cocktails, and some ladies wearing what can only be described as practically nothing. Also, I've been assured that somewhere around the halfway mark, a midget will tickle a pig. Hello, and a jolly good tiding of the Merry Christmas season to you, dear listeners. Yes, welcome to this, the holly jolly Christmas episode of the After Movie Diner. And the diner this evening is decked out in all the kind of Christmas regalia you can possibly imagine. We've got tinsel and baubles and snowmen and Santas and all sorts of things that you would imagine a diner being decorated with at Christmas. So please do pretend that I am sat here in such a place wearing a jolly hat and being all very happy about the Christmas season, and not at all the reality in which I am hunched over in a cold, dark room wishing that it would all just go away. So with that, let us crack on with today's episode. We have got an absolutely fantastic episode. We've got none other than Linnea Quigley, America's very own Scream Queen. She's had a long, varied, exciting and enjoyable career that we're going to be talking about in just a few moments with her. And what's really exciting is she is one of the stars of the film we're covering on this very show, Silent Night, Deadly Night. And so we get to talk to her about that in depth as well, which I can't wait to do. Obviously. Before then, we've got a little piece of news and some listeners' feedback and letters and some recordings and things like that. I just got them here. But first, the news is all very exciting. Do you remember a movie called Original Gangsters? It was directed by Larry Cohen. It starred Fred Williamson, Pam Grier, Jim Brown, Richard Roundtree, and a whole host of other people from sort of action and exploitation 70s cinema. It was really great. Well, it came out in the 90s, and it is getting a sequel, finally. Well, it's getting a sequel if we all help it to get a sequel. And this is what this news is all about. They have started up a Kickstarter campaign which ends in 51 days to fund this new film, which is going to be called Old School Gangsters. So you need to go to Original Gangsters 2, Old School Gangsters Kickstarter page. Just search it under Kickstarter and you'll be able to find it. Or indeed, just look up Original Gangsters 2 on Google and it's the first one that comes up. And you need to go over there and for Christmas, as a present to them, donate some money. Fred Williamson will be directing the movie himself and producing it along with his new production partner Jason Roth from Bargain Basement Productions. It will be reteaming all the same cast that are available. So you've got Pam Grier's coming back, Jim Brown's coming back, Richard Roundtree's coming back, Antonio Fargas will be in there. All sorts of people in this film. Fred obviously will also be starring. We are going to be running a Original Gangsters month all through January with some excellent surprises. And we're talking like interview surprises, people. So don't go anywhere. January is going to be awesome. We're going to be covering Fred Williamson movies, Pam Grier movies, Jim Brown movies, all sorts of great films in the lead up and as part of a pledge drive for Original Gangsters Part 2. Old School Gangsters. So please go to the Kickstarter and donate today. I will be posting links all over the place. I already have been posting links all over the place, and I'll be mentioning it continually on the show. So please, if you want to see those guys back together again, kicking ass on the big screen, and if you don't want to see that while you're listening to the show, because everyone involved in this show, which is just me, wants to see that movie. So please go make that happen. That's the end of that bit. And now let's go on and play some of the messages we've received this year from the listeners and the followers of the After Movie Diner.
Hi, this is Steven, and I was calling. I wanted to talk about your Silent Snow Deadly Christmas movie. I think it's really weird that you would have Santa Claus being a mean guy, because he's so awesome, and who wouldn't want to be nice to Santa Claus? Every Christmas Eve and St. Patrick's Day, I leave milk and cookies and whiskey out on the table for Santa. Why? Why would you be mean to Santa? I just don't understand. Is it a British thing? Do British people hate Santa Claus? Is that what it is? Oh.
Season's greetings to the After Movie Diner from Robert Long, one of the filmmakers down here in Baltimore, Maryland. And by the way, John, I need some movies to go, so can you get a doggy bag for me? Thanks. Bye-bye.
After Movie Diner, this is Robert Hoffman in La Mesa, California, wishing you and yours a very, very happy holiday season. And keep on watching. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, all those people who stepped up to the plate and sent us in a voicemail. That's fantastic. We also got some emails. Let's just go through those for a moment. Fake rustling of paper noises. And here we go. So, from Charlie, from Shock Marathons or from Moten Media movies such as Freaky Farley, Don't Let the River Beast Get You, Monsters, Marriage, Murder, and in Manch Vegas, all those kind of movies. Charlie directs them, would you believe? Well, Charlie wrote us in just to say, hey, John, thanks for all the great episodes this year. Keep fighting the good fight against pretentious crap and terrible remakes. Merry Christmas, Charlie. Thank you very much, Charlie. Okay, so the next one we have is from Matt Farley, who is the writer and star of all the movies I just mentioned, and also the genius behind Moten Media's musical output, which is fantastic, and also check him out on the Bone Zone and various other places. He's been on this show recently doing a Woody Allen thing, so check out Matt Farley, motonmedia.com, shockmarathons.com, check it all out. And he writes, more fake paper rustling here, Happy Christmas to the After Movie Diner. Silent Night, Deadly Night was a very good movie, until I watched Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. Part 2 makes the original obsolete. That's because the first half of the sequel is filled with all the best scenes in the original. There's not a boring moment. Then when Part 2 begins, after more than 30 minutes of flashbacks, it's even more entertaining than the best moments of Part 1. The lesson learned, lots of good movies would be better if they were half as long. Therefore, if you're making a movie, make 2 movies and squeeze them into one. More entertainment, less filler. Well, thanks very much, Matt. That's a good recommendation for Part 2. I don't know if he was saying that we shouldn't have covered Part 1, so maybe we've done it wrong and it was a mistake. Maybe we shouldn't have done Part 1, and I don't know. But anyway, thanks for writing about a fantastic letter. Only kidding. Okay, so now we're going to move on. Andrew Buckley writes. Andrew Buckley, who has just, by the way, released his second novel, Stiltskin, available for purchase on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, Kobo's, and lots of other places. Check out Stiltskin by Andrew Buckley. Google it or go to Amazon or look for it. Anyway, find Stiltskin, Andrew Buckley, Google those words, find that, purchase the book this Christmas season. It's fantastic, and there will be an audiobook version done by yours truly, that's me, coming up in the new year. But until then, go buy either the physical book or the digital version, ebook, or whatever they call it. I don't have a Kindle, but if whatever they call it, go find it, buy it. It's amazing. Anyway, he writes, Merry Christmas to the After Movie Diner podcast and Dr. Action. You produce stellar shows with amazing commentary, interviews, and entertainment, all for free. That's the gift that keeps on giving all year round. Lots of love and Christmas cheer to you and your family. Well, thank you ever so much, Andrew. And David Brighton says, Happy Christmas, melon farmers. If you see Santa, best hit him over the head with the poker, just to be on the safe side. Twice. Rick Peter Peters, one of my favourite double Peter named persons, he writes, I introduced this movie to a friend this year. He's talking about Silent Night, Deadly Night, and he said his friend noted that Santa was very strong in some scenes, but was easily knocked over by empty boxes in the stockroom. In one scene he lifts a guy up with just one arm and strangles him, and like he says in another scene, gets knocked over by some boxes. So well spotted there. And lastly, another fan of Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, who clearly didn't realise that we were covering the first movie, Andreas Bengtsson. I think you really need to tell me how to, or phone in or something. Just tell me how to pronounce that last name. But it's Andreas Bengtsson, I think. Anyway, he's a wonderful chap. I'm not knocking him at all. He's lovely. He writes, sadly, the first movie lacks Eric Freeman's eyebrow acting from the second, but a damn fine slasher nonetheless. Not to mention that the first movie consists entirely of original footage, something that the sequel can only claim to be 50% of. All right, I think that's all the messages that we got. So a big thank you for all of those. Obviously, you can contact us on Twitter at After Movie Diner, on Facebook at www.facebook.com/After Movie Diner. You can now call us and leave us a voicemail at 347-669-0053. That's 347-669-0053. Or if you want to leave a free voicemail that doesn't cost you anything to call or anything like that, you can actually do it through your computer over at SpeakPipe. That's www.speakpipe.com/After Movie Diner. Just look us up or go to the website aftermoviediner.com and all the links are there. Anyway, thank you ever so much for sending in your feedback, your comments, your nice messages, everything like that. I love it, and I think it makes the shows better. I just think it makes the shows better. I just think it makes it more interactive and more fun. Coming up, I can tell you that on New Year's Eve, we will be having Mo Porn, Matt Payne, and Dr. Action himself, Paul Croson, here on the show to discuss an entire cacophony of the career of none other than Sir Roger of the Moor himself, Roger Moore, on our Rockin' a Rogering New Year's Eve special. It's going to be fantastic. So, if you have any comments or questions or anything like that about Roger Moore movies or about New Year's Eve, or just to get us in the party spirit, send us some sort of thing about your New Year's Eve resolutions or whatever it is. why not email us at aftermoviediner@gmail.com. Call us 347-669-0053 or leave a voicemail on SpeakPipe, www.speakpipe.com/aftermoviediner. Thanks very much.
From the folks that bring you the blogs at nerdlunch.net and cavalcadeofawesome.net, it's the Nerd Lunch Podcast. Join CT, Jeej, Pax, and the ever-rotating fourth chair every week covering a variety of topics in movies, TV, comic books, fast food, snacks, and more. Nerd Lunch is available from iTunes and nerdlunch.net.
Hi, my name's Chris, and I've got Steven Seagal on the old dog and bone. Steven.
Yes.
Have you ever desired to hear a weekly movie podcast hosted by two fellows from the northeast of England who run their little hands through the week's movie news and then cap it off with a review or two, ranging from all sorts of genres: kung fu, anime, straight-to-video tomfoolery, bit of horror?
No.
Well, you're a dick who doesn't know what he's talking about. I don't even know why I'm asking you. I'm sure there's other people out there who have desired to hear such a thing, so if you're one of those lovely people, pop on over to wafufm.com, that's WAFUFM.com, and check out the show. You can also find us on iTunes, TalkShoe, and Facebook at facebook.com/wafublog. Wafu FM, it's a podcast that's good and stuff. Shut up, Stephen.
They're 12 miles of bad road. And now they have a microphone and their own show. It's the Daily Grindhouse Podcast, the official podcast of DailyGrindhouse.com. Starring Gene.
You tell that bitch who sent you here how sorry I am I can no longer be her friend.
And the man called Perry.
I'm the one that killed Monday, whooped Tuesday, and put Wednesday in the hospital. All the birds did it tell five did not the birds spared your own son.
Reviewing the hits and the hidden from the world of exploitation, cinema, and beyond. Featuring exclusive cast and crew interviews. Past guests include John Carpenter, Robert Forster, Brian Trenchard Smith, but still no Steve Guttenberg. We'll get him someday. We promise. We promise. The Daily Grindhouse Podcast, available on iTunes, Stitcher Smart Radio, Podomatic, and of course at dailygrindhouse.com/podcasts. The Daily Grindhouse Podcast. Tough films for the rough crowd.
Got the goddamn message? Let's go to work.
And now the moment I'm sure you've all been waiting for, and you've been looking at your watch over the last 15 minutes of me rambling like an idiot going, first of all, why am I wearing a watch? Nobody wears a watch anymore. I should just look at my cell phone. That's what everyone does. However, you have been probably thinking, why is this guy going on and on and on? I'm only here for the Linnea Quigley interview. I've never listened to this show before. I don't know where I am. I'm lost. I don't know who these people are. I don't know who this guy is. What is going on? Why does he just play the interview already? Well, that time has finally come. Yes, thank you ever so much for putting up with all that other stuff, but I like to put the listeners up the front. I like to do a little bit of intro before we get into the interview. So that's what that was. Now we're going over to the interview now with Linnea Quigley. She is America's #1 scream queen. She's had a long, varied, exciting, and scary career over the last 3 decades. And we get into that in depth. She was incredibly generous with her time, very lovely to speak to. She gave us an hour, so you have got a really in-depth, exciting, interesting, I hope, conversation with Linnea Quigley coming up. So without further ado, that's what we've got next, and then stick around because afterwards we go to an actual diner and discuss Silent Night, Deadly Night. Well, this is lovely. Thanks ever so much for agreeing to be on the show, Linnea. Thank you for this.
Oh, I know. Even with all the troubles, it's worth it.
Well, let's hope so. let's hope it's a good experience for you. You must do a million of these. So thank you ever so much for being so generous with your time. So let's kick off. My first question. So Linnea, is it better being America's #1 scream queen than just another American sweetheart? Scream queens have got to have more fun, right?
Yes. The Scream Queens just want to have fun, I would say. That's got to be another song that I do. I think it's better to be a Scream Queen because you have more longevity. Otherwise, you're just another actress who hits their plateau and then just goes away.
Right.
But with the Scream Queen, you're kind of remembered, like, with that kind of cult status forever.
Yeah, because you build up a fan base, and horror and cult fan bases seem to be wonderfully loyal.
They are very loyal, yes.
So what does it mean being a Scream Queen to you? And was it something that you always set out to be, or you happily grew into it?
I never set out to be it because I was just really shy. It was something that I would have wanted to do when I was younger because my friends and I would watch the Creature feature, which would be on Saturday nights at midnight, and would reenact the deaths and, you know, some of the lines of the movies, and just like watch the Birds with Alfred Hitchcock Birds and try to scare my friends when they'd walk home, and and you know, I just loved horror, and I wanted to be in it, be the girl that was like, winning over the men and getting away. I didn't want to end up being in a wax museum, but I wanted to, take over and break out of the bondage of the horrible villain and save the day.
Right. Yeah, I noticed you've often portrayed as sort of tougher, but you're not a Scream Queen that's, happy to just be a victim. You play a sort of tougher, stronger, role model role almost, in some of the performances. Was that intentionally from you, or did you just find that in the writing of the movies?
That was intentionally from me because when I first started out, I was the victim. I was the girl that would run and fall, and then the axe would come down on my head. And you don't live very long in the movies, but then David Dakota got me a script, Sorority Babes in the Slimeball Bowl-orama, and I got to play a very tough chick, and then in Return of the Living Dead, I got to play kind of a tough chick. So it was something that I wanted really bad and put out there in the universe, and it luckily came back to me.
Yeah, it's fantastic, because what it does is it sort of... It takes away that exploitative element sometimes that are in women's roles in horror and cult movies, and you kind of own it. You know what I mean? You then take charge of that appearance, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, and everybody remembers the girl that was like tough or would go after the monsters or the demons, whereas they wouldn't really remember the girl that just died in the film.
Yeah. Although, arguably, even in your early roles where you might have a small performance where it might end up with a death, people remember those, quite vividly, quite iconic in a way. Which is good, because this leads on to my next question. This episode is going to be our Christmas episode. So this is our seasonal episode.
Oh, a memorable death.
Yes, we're covering Silent Night, Deadly Night, which is going to be 30 years old next year, which is incredible, right?
It.
Yeah. So let's talk about that film. How did you get your part in that?
I went to a audition with Stanzi Stokes as the casting director. And it's kind of big because I went on so many auditions and got turned down so many times. And I went on this one, and probably one of the things that they wanted was a girl that was lightweight, because they had to lift her up so many times doing the antlers scene.
Yeah.
So I think, my acting and then also being of slight build, I got the part. So I was really happy. I didn't think it would be this outrageous movie that mothers heckled and everything, and that it would be such a hit, and there'd be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 of them. I was really shocked about that.
Yeah, had you known that, you would have said, "Can I come back in 2 as a zombie or something?"
Oh yeah, I definitely would have. I would have said, well, I did come back in 2 because it was a flashback. I think.
Yes.
But what I've heard, the whole movie was a flashback.
The first 45 minutes or something, or 35 minutes is a flashback, and then after that it becomes a very odd movie.
Oh, no, that's very strange.
Yeah.
That's very strange. From what I remember, I think the director was not a horror director. I think he did the Grizzly Adams movies or something, if I remember.
I'm not, funny enough, I've got a good friend of mine who is a filmmaker in his own right up in Massachusetts, and he knows Part 2 much better than I do, so I couldn't answer that, unfortunately. I mean, I'm a big fan of Part 1 and have seen it many times. We saw it recently for this episode in the Fangoria screening in New York, but I've only seen Part 2 maybe once or twice, so I don't know about the director, unfortunately.
Right. I can understand why you don't study much of that.
No, it's the second one has become famous for the garbage day bit, because he goes around with a revolver or a handgun shooting at people in the street saying garbage day, and it's become this sort of jokey cult thing. But
I'm going to have to see that then.
Yeah, I would fast forward the first 45 minutes though, because that's the movie you're in.
It's like I've seen this one before.
I've seen that and I've been in that. I hope you get residuals from the second one as well then.
I do. I signed something with Screen Actors Guild and I do get residuals. They're not a lot, but yeah, it's kind of fun to get them.
Fantastic.
Go to the bank and show off.
Yeah, right, exactly. So along with Graduation Day, which was obviously very early in your career as well, this is a classic of the slasher genre. Do you like slasher films as a general, or were you more different strains of horror?
I kind of liked I did like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I really liked the old ones, like when Vincent Price did Murder in the Rue Morgue and Wax Museum. Yeah. And Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Some more like the ones where there's a suspense of really, why is this happening? What's going to happen next?
Yeah.
Not the formula where it's like, you have sex and you die, and you're a bad girl and you die, or you're doing drugs and you die, and that. I kind of like the ones where it's more suspense in there. Yeah.
So the more European tinged ones, I guess. The American ones tend to be very moralistic, I suppose, and they're sort of...
Yeah, they do. Yeah, the European ones are so much better.
No, I mean, I'm actually a big fan of the genre as a whole, but I like all sorts of different aspects of it. One of the questions that was raised, I'm doing the show, the review portion of the show with a good friend of mine. We went along, as I said, to the Fangoria screening. And he was joking afterwards about the fact that the house where you filmed that scene seemed to have a lot of tigers and tiger imagery on the wall. So I just wondered, where was that filmed? Was it a set or was it...
In Silent Night, Deadly Night?
Yeah, in Silent Night, Deadly Night,
It was a set, but I have a feeling it was someone's house.
Right.
They're like tigers. Mm-hmm. And it was in Utah.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of Mormons. So I guess maybe they were a Leo, their astrological sign, but it was, I remember that now, very weird they had all those tigers around.
It may have been I don't know whether it was a hunting thing or whether it was just the 70s, but it was that kind of thing. Because it was the wood
the 70s, I think.
Yeah, the wood paneling gives it away, I think.
Yeah, oh yeah, it sure does.
And so whose idea was the pool table, and was it as uncomfortable as it looked?
If I remember right, it wasn't a comfortable surface to be doing that on.
No.
It was very uncomfortable, and it was the writer and director's idea to do it on the pool table for some reason. I guess they found that erotic.
Yeah.
And it was their idea, because they had to have the antlers go through my stomach. It was their ideas that I would pull on my pants instead of a woman pulling on her top to go upstairs.
Right. Yeah. Plus, I suppose they get more exposure then for the next few minutes while you're being chased around, I guess.
Oh yeah, that's right. There's a little extra boob action going on.
Yeah. I was surprised. Obviously, I watched a few of your interviews to hear that you were, nervous or shy or whatever, and yet I think on screen you're always seen to be quite a ballsy performer. Is that something that just happens when you are acting the part and you're on camera, or does it take a lot to kind of psych yourself up for that?
No, I think it's just something that happens. You kind of lose track of like anybody being in there, and you're just acting. It's just, when you turn a video camera on somebody that's shy, they'll do like a striptease or something. It's like, it's very strange.
No.
Cameras do weird things to people.
Yeah,
But
they can make the most confident people inept, and they can make the most shy people brazen, I suppose.
yeah, that's a very good analogy. But I just kind of forget everybody's in the room and do what I need to do. I mean, luckily there's a script there, and I know exactly what's going to happen. I know the parameters, so it's not, something that is going to be a surprise to me.
No, of course. And what did they have to do, just lastly, on Silent Night, Deadly Night? What did they have to do to achieve the impaling on antlers thing? I mean, is that actually you hanging up there, or was there a body or something?
Yeah, back then they liked to really torture you.
Right.
They put this contraption that came out of the wall that was, I liken it to a bicycle seat, but metal, that kind of jutted out, and I had to straddle it with all my weight without any bicycle pedals, and then they put these antlers in my stomach, and anytime I was breathing, the antlers would just go boing, boing, boing and move. So I had to keep perfectly still and not breathe, and of course they had to have a nice fight down below me when I had to hold my breath for so long when the two of them fought.
Yeah.
But it was really hard because it was cold in that room, and they kept spraying it with dulling spray, so that fumes of that stuff was horrible.
Oh, I can imagine.
And just being kind of uncomfortable on that thing I was straddling.
Yeah.
So, I definitely have suffered for my craft.
Yes, well, I mean, luckily it kind of, I suppose if you know anything about the making of movies when you're watching them, it does come across. Like, you're watching that scene and you get caught up in that scene, but there's also a part of my brain when I'm watching it that goes, oh, poor Linnea, look at her hanging up there. That must be really uncomfortable. I can only imagine.
That's your movie side where it's not what it seems like. It's you're thinking, okay, if I was doing this movie, that must be uncomfortable for her.
Right, exactly. So in the same year, you played what I imagine was an even more challenging role in Savage Streets, because not only are you mute and deaf, but you also have an incredibly difficult rape sequence at the beginning there. How did you prepare for that? What was that like to film, if you don't mind me asking?
That was weird. I prepared, I bought some books on sign language, and I asked some people at a college about some signing, but it was very odd because you would have to look at their mouths or their hands and, be like you couldn't hear anything else. And I felt like Heather. I felt like the girl that was out because I had the kind of clumsy shoes and dress and hairstyle, and all the other girls were styling and groovy and everything. And here I was, little frumpy and eating ice cream cones. But it was hard to prepare for the rape scene because they invited like the production people down, and it was like everybody was staring, and it was a little bit uncomfortable.
While you filmed that bit, they had all the production crew and everything?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
my goodness.
One day that it should have been a closed set, and I was too young to say, oh, everybody get out of here. I was too intimidated.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't know any better. I was on a learning curve, the hard way. But they invited people down, so that was kind of creepy.
And then you said the guys stayed in character, the jocks?
The guys stayed in character. They were very mean, and I was just like, the one time when they tore my shirt off, it like tore my shoulder because the material didn't really come off. So they did a really good job scaring me.
Yeah, well, I can imagine. Oh, okay, that legitimately sounds horrible.
Oh yeah.
Because I was going to ask whether seeing Linda Blair's character in that, and her sort of strong obviously she had been known as a child star in a horror movie, whether her then going on and playing this sort of strong female role model was something that, you were excited by in that film or interested by in that film. Was that something that struck you about that movie, or did you not want any part of it after your bit?
Oh no, I thought it was great. I love like her scenes when she's like getting dressed to go get those guys. It's such a great scene where you see all the instruments of torture being laid out and her zipping her boot and her cleavage and her little quips to the guys when she's going to kill them. I love it all.
Yeah, it's funny because cult movies, horror movies, B-movie, action movies, that kind of stuff, while they often get credited of being very sexist or misogynist, they rarely get credited for actually they give more strong roles to women than mainstream movies, certainly back then it seems.
Yeah, they did. It was all about, it wasn't until the first film that I remember of a strong woman was Alien with Sigourney Weaver.
Right, yeah.
Before it was the guys were in charge and they were the tough ones and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone ruled, and then all of a sudden Linda Hamilton was in Terminator and she was like buff and taken over, and Sigourney Weaver, and it started to grow that they liked a tough chick.
Yeah, because I always think of people like Pam Grier, Linda Blair, yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Even Jamie Lee Curtis in the Halloween series to some extent, or the first couple anyway, that, there's more strength to those women that would then, like you say, then bleed into these mainstream movies or Terminator and Alien and things like that would then become bigger box office. But I think initially it's very interesting that cult and horror tends to be this breeding ground of strong female, while also being very exploitative as well. You can't really turn away from that either, unfortunately.
Right. And another film that was back then that, showed a woman, the men getting the better of her and her getting back was I Spit on Your Grave. I love that film too.
Right, of course, yeah.
It showed her total vindictive revenge on those guys.
Yeah. No, and it's. I think it's great that those genre movies allow that. I think it's forward thinking in their own weird exploitive way.
Exactly.
So imagine out of all of your roles, and we touched on this a bit earlier, that the character of Trash from the film Return of the Living Dead is one of the most enduring. And I'm sure you get asked about this all the time, so I apologize if you're having to say the same stuff. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that character in particular, and what was it about that movie that you think really struck a chord?
Well, I don't know what it is about that character, except I think she represents what a lot of people would like to do in life and just kind of say, oh, fuck that, I want to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
But the movie, just like, it was the right time, everything was aligned. It was a combination of the cast, the director, the writer, which was the director, the music, the art direction, just everything worked. The effects, just everything worked in that movie so well, and it seems to be, I don't know if it's just because I love it so much, but it seems timeless because of all that.
Yeah. What's interesting is that Night of the Living Dead obviously defined a certain type of zombie film that hadn't been seen before. And it's interesting that it's not until Return of the Living Dead, which obviously references Night of the Living Dead as if it was real, that you get the next shift in zombie film culture, which is obviously the introduction of A, zombies talking, but B, more importantly, the idea of brains. And that has just become something that, if you see a cartoon with a zombie in it, or if you see like a zombie doll or a toy or something like that, it's all about the brains now. Zombies eat brains. And that comes from Return of the Living Dead. I mean, that's entirely the invention of that movie. So,
yeah, you're right. Somebody brought that up about a year ago, and I didn't even realize that. Really, but you're right, which is so cool. And, they have the fast zombies, the slow zombies, the people that like the fast ones, the slow ones. I liked in Return of the Living Dead that the zombies thought and talked. That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
that made it even scarier that they could almost have the intelligence of when they were alive.
Right, and that's something that Romero dabbled in Day of the Dead with the Bub character and the idea of him being able to use a weapon, which is obviously frightening, and then it's obviously expanded on in Return of the Living Dead. I think it's really interesting that Night and Return of, obviously they're linked by, is it John Russo?
John Russo, yes.
Yeah, who links the two. But it's interesting that they both define a very strong section of that genre. And really, it wouldn't be until 28 days later, I would guess, or maybe the Dawn of the Dead remake, that would then change it again with the sort of fast-paced zombies and things. But
yeah, I really liked the fast-paced one because you don't know where it's coming from. The cameras are moving so fast and it's just frantic. It's almost like what you'd feel like if you were in a situation like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I asked some, I think you re-shared this actually, but I asked some fans on the Facebook page to contribute some questions. And in fact, one of them we were just talking about, my friend Jonesy in the UK, he asked how you felt about Return of the Living Dead now and what was the working relationship like with the cast and crew on the film.
It was good. It was different for everybody. I know a lot of people had trouble with Dan O'Bannon, but I didn't have any trouble with him. I just did what he said and, went along with the program because I really trusted him. There were there were arguments, throwing things, just a lot of things because of the tension, because we had the parameters of just bringing it in on a certain budget and certain time, and Dan's mind is so big and he wanted to get all that on screen, and it was a lot of stress for him. Yeah. So I think that's why a lot of arguments and things like that arose.
But you personally, you had an okay experience with that? Or
I had a great experience. I mean, cool. Besides being really cold, buried in mud, getting strep throat, just kind of suffering even more than Silent Night, Deadly Night, and having that makeup on my face and on my body. I am so happy and glad that Stanzi Stokes had me come in again and read for the part, because I'm just very proud of that part.
Well, it's a good iconic look, isn't it, with the hair and, obviously everyone talks about the grave dancing scene, but just in general, the look of it, not so much the nudity, but just the way it looks. It's very a sort of iconic look with the red hair and then the pale skin, and it's just got a good kind of punk aesthetic to it, I think.
Yeah, it did. And it's kind of like what all teenagers would like to do, and have fun going to a graveyard, and of course you're immortal then when you're that age, so you don't think of death. And well, I thought of death a lot, but you don't think of it like you go when you're in your 60s and 70s. It's a whole different thing.
Right.
You're not so quick to go to the cemetery, so it's like it was fun because these kids were like just immortal in their own minds, and then things turned around.
Yeah, and it all went pear-shaped. They all got in trouble. Jones, you also wanted to know: are you planning on doing any UK conventions soon, or have you got any great convention stories?
I would love to. I'm hoping somebody will ask me over there. I haven't done. I did a movie called Cannibals over there, but that was like close to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then almost 20-some years ago, I did it was a media tour it was called The Imp over there, Sorority Babes in the Slamball Bolorama.
Yeah.
And Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers.
Yeah, that was a big rental.
It was a fun time. I went to Forbidden Planet and signed autographs. And boy, if somebody knows how to get me over there, I'd love to come over, because I love the English. They love horror, and it's just great fun.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, it's funny. With hindsight, people, I think, divide movies up more into A movies and B movies now than they ever used to. Because I remember going to my local video store as a teenager and Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers being on the same level, the same shelf, the same area as whatever the Hollywood A picture was that was out at the time.
That's true.
The small independent video stores tended not to divide them. Once you got Blockbuster, they tended to have 50 copies of whatever the mainstream was, and then a back cat copy of a B movie if you were lucky. But my video store, which was I grew up, it was a small town, had Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers right there, like right next to Big or whatever the movie was. I don't know what the movie was.
I love it.
Right next to whatever the A movie was. Okay, I don't know this gentleman, but he asked on the website, Paul Michael Marquez, his name is.
Okay.
He said, because of some of the nude scenes that you've done in films, were there any situations with actors on your movies either being awkward or forward with you after filming, or have you been lucky with professionalism?
I've been really lucky with professionalism, and I kind of tease the guys. I think the guys are a lot more shy maybe than the women.
Yeah.
And I'll just give them a hard time about it. I'll be saying, well, everybody's going to be looking at you, not me. And, just give them a hard time about it. And usually nobody's been forward with me, and everybody's been professional. I've been very lucky that way. And the guys are, like I said, very shy about it.
That's good to know. I would have guessed sort of that answer, because I think guys, as much as they like to talk a lot, I think when confronted with the situation would probably be like, oh, okay, so this is happening then.
Oh, yeah. This one guy, it was really funny on Creepazoids. He was going to the gym because he had a shower scene with me, and he was going and working out every day at 6 a.m. and, we'd go into the set like at 7:30, and every day he went and went and went. And so after we did the shower scene, he let up on going to the gym. And about 5 days later, I said to him, we've got to do the shower scene today. And I looked, about 5 minutes later, he was around the corner doing push-ups and everything. So I think the guys are a lot more vain and really want to look good for it.
Yeah. Well, we've got nothing else to show off, so I think that's probably the issue there. He also asks if you ever get back to Davenport, Iowa, or if you still have friends there.
I don't really. I have a cousin by blood there. But not by blood, by marriage. I'm sorry.
Right.
But I don't really get back there. It's been a long time. I've been to Iowa filming, but I haven't been to Davenport, per se, in years.
Yeah, I don't know if he asked that because he's from there. That was just a question he put on the site.
But Davenport is beautiful. When I remember it, it's, on the river, the Mississippi River, and I think it was a really good place to grow up.
Yeah, I've sadly only driven through the state. We used to live out west, and we drove cross country. So I've driven through the state, but I've never stopped. I mean, apart from at a sort of roadside motel.
I don't blame you.
Never traveled.
Like foreign.
Well, it was all part of that sort of. Is it the I-80 that goes right through the country? That we were on, something like that.
Yeah.
So it was all part of that. We just drove straight through. But no, I mean, it was. I think it was snowing at the time. I think it was.
Oh my gosh!
It was late February, early March. So I think it was cold and.
Probably. It did get cold there.
Yeah. Christopher wants to know if there were any roles that you tried out for but didn't get, and how did you become comfortable with your body as an actress? They're the two things he wanted.
Let's see. I tried out for Teen Wolf. I didn't get that. I tried out for Howard the Duck. I didn't get that. I tried out for the music to not Flashdance, the one that Jerry Bruckheimer did afterward.
Footloose. Is it Footloose?
No, not Footloose. What was it? Oh, I can't remember the movie.
Was it another dancing one, or was it a...
It wasn't another dancing one. Oh man.
Was it Days of Thunder or something like that?
No, it wasn't Days of Thunder. I think that was before, or something like that. It'll come to me, but I did try out for the music part in that.
Yeah.
And then with my body, I guess I just felt comfortable with it because my dad was a doctor and they had a very, more open feeling about your body is your body and it's not something horrible or something to have to cover up and be ashamed of and that sort of thing. So I grew up in that kind of a lifestyle. Not that they were nudists or anything, but they just didn't make a big deal about, oh my God, shut the door, you can't see anybody naked.
Yeah, no, that's healthy. We were very much the same. Yeah, completely. My good friend Ralph Santiago, he just wanted to say something. He wanted to tell you that a certain scene of yours in Night of the Demons, which I'm sure you know which scene he's referring to, is the reason that he is who he is, Disturbed, and he'd like to thank you for it.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad I did that to him. That's great.
That's
and
Ralph
I think I know too. And boy, that was my favorite shade.
Yes, indeed. No, that scene's fantastic from the moment that you sort of change in the mirror to that then whole sequence that goes on with you as the demon. That's crazy. And that, in fact, that character in Night the Demon, she has some sass to her. She has some sort of before she becomes a demon, she has some sort of strength and
yes, that's true.
Sass
that's
to her,
true.
yeah.
She has power over the guys.
Right, exactly. Which is great. That's a fantastically fun little movie. I love that movie. Joe Mazzotta on the website, he was interested to know how you became involved with animal rights and when you became a vegan.
I think it was about in the 1980s, probably 1985, I became a vegan. And I became involved in animal rights when I saw this documentary. It was Hidden Crimes, it was called, and it was in black and white. And I never knew a lot of stuff was happening, like animal testing and the army doing, ballistic stuff with dogs and things. And I didn't know about the cosmetic testing and just the cruelty the farming and all that industry does. So it just opened up my eyes and I said, well, I want to do everything I can to make this stuff go away, at least be part of making it going away. But that was a real powerful video I saw, Hidden Crimes.
Yeah. And is there a place where, fans of yours or whatever can kind of support that? Is there charities you would suggest or?
Well, I suggest PETA because they're the biggest.
Right.
It's PETA. And there's one in LA called Last Chance for Animals, Krista Rose. They're very, very good. And then on my website, I've got the Wildlife Waste, in LA, the Wildlife Waste Station, and it's the Wildlife Center in Florida.
Yeah.
They all, come out to your house and save animals. I had some baby possums that their mother died, and I had to get them off the mother's nipples, which is really hard to do with a possum.
Really? I didn't know.
Oh, they suck them in. It's crazy. But they come out and they take them and they rehabilitate them and let them go then when they're strong enough.
Oh, excellent. That sounds fantastic. Yeah, I know people listening, they might be, they might want to take that further, so it's good to know places they can go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, one little step after another.
Definitely. No, I completely agree. So Night of the Demons was brought up. We were talking about that. It's getting a new Blu-ray next year from Scream Factory. So what can you tell us about filming that, and what's it like sort of to see films like that suddenly on this, brand new format and getting all the bells and whistles and the new effects and everything? So
I think it's really great that it's getting the acclaim that it needs because it really kind of fell back there. It wasn't really well known. There were the real horror people, which maybe we'll get into later, that loved it. And now my problem is I'm not a big fan for horror movies and movies of watching Blu-ray or high definition because it takes me out of the experience of that grindy look.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Actually, yeah.
It almost makes it seem like I'm behind the scenes, not someone that's just watching a film. And I'm really on the fence about that. I don't have a HD TV because I just like the grindiness of a movie or TV show, unless it's like a wildlife special or something like that.
Right. Yeah, no, I remember when obviously I was old enough to have quite a big VHS collection when that was the format. And I remember the first time, obviously there was a lot of movies that were banned in England because England had actual censorship. And
the nasties.
The video nasties, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, but these movies would be handed around, tame really by today's standards, things like The Evil Dead and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and stuff like that. But they would be handed around on these bootleg VHS that didn't have labels or a fancy cover or anything. They were just like rattly old VHSs that had been watched 15 times, and you would put them in and it would almost be because the video was almost scary that you just had the video. You didn't even have to watch the film. You just knew that this was a thing kind of born of evil,
Yeah, you're right. That's true.
It had a whole thing to it, it had a whole, and then when you put it in, like you say, it was grainy and it was grimy and you couldn't see sort of, now when you watch The Evil Dead, particularly on Blu-ray, you see all the effects. It's all cleaned up. It's all too bright. Everything's too bright. And I just, some movies I think works great on the format, and I think every format has its benefits and every format has its negatives, but I do agree with you that those old horror movies, the ones from the 70s and the 80s, it's nothing like watching them on VHS or even projected, like a 16mm projection of them or something is fantastic.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
But how long was the shoot on that? Was it all sort of in that one location? Or?
It was all in that one location except for the grocery store. And let me think if there was anything else shot. Just some driving scenes they had in there. But it was all shot in this actual house that was in a really bad part of town. We had security and everything there.
Yeah.
Shot all at night. They duvetaned all the windows so it was all dark in there. And smoke machines, the whole bit where your nose has black in it when you're done at the end of the day. And it was a really good experience because we were kind of like just a group, and we each had our little room that we had to change in and lay down in when we got a chance. So it was a fun shoot. It really was.
Yeah, it's like a good haunted house movie. You never quite know what's going to happen next.
It was kind of a haunted house.
Yeah, it just shifts from one move to the next. You never know kind of what grotesque thing the next possessed person is going to do.
That's true.
It's good fun. So you were in a band, The Skirts, and have composing and song credits on some films. What role does music play in your life? You also reformed the band recently, right?
Yes. Haiti Pomar and I are the main people. She plays bass, I play guitar. We both do vocals. We both write. Like, we write our own songs and things like that.
Yeah.
And we played LA for a lot of times. In fact, when I went in to read for Cheech and Chong's Nice Dreams, I played him the theme for Charlie's Angels, and he laughed. He thought that was really funny, and he put the whole band in the movie, Nice Dreams.
Yes.
So it was kind of a really fun thing for us because we were very young, and, it was a big set where we had our own trailers, and we felt like rock stars. It was great.
Yeah.
And I have the songs still out I switched them to DVD. It was on a vinyl, which I know is making a comeback, but from vinyl to DVD because it was a lot better.
Yeah. And so you're still playing, you're still writing, and what sort of influences that? What kind of do you have music all the time, or is it just sort of a side hobby type thing?
Right now, because the movies and conventions and doing everything kind of took over, it's more of when I can do it and when Haiti can do it, because we don't live that close anymore. So life gets in the way sometimes. You think the older you get, the easier things are going to get, but sometimes it's not that way.
Yeah.
But luckily last year I was busy so much of the time, I didn't get a chance really to do much with the music. But we're hoping to. We hope to like get someone to finance another album and start writing some more. I always need a reason to write. I'm not one of those people that are good at like, oh, I'm going to write a song.
Right.
I used to be, but now it's like I need a purpose to.
No, I know exactly what that's like. Yeah, I'm a musician. I write a lot of stuff, and actually doing the show, it meant that every week I was sort of, well, I have no inclination to write a song. What am I going to write a song about? And then I suddenly had a brainwave and thought, I know, I'm going to write a song each week that's about whatever we talk about on the show. So suddenly it became a whole new area of inspiration. So I started writing film music or film-based songs, comedy, comedy film songs. And,
that's great.
Putting them on the show. So that's where I found my inspiration from.
Oh, that's a great thing. Yeah, when you've got something, and it's hard when you play an instrument because you kind of miss the other instruments. You just sit there, oh, I'm just playing alone, whereas the band gives you this feel of like strength and everything. It's a whole different thing.
Definitely. What can you tell us about the horror workout video? How did that come about, and what was the reaction to it when it came out?
Well, I was working on Murder Weapon, a David Dakota film.
Yeah.
And Ken Hall, who wrote a lot of films back then and was on the set visiting, he does foam fabrication now. He came on the set, and I was doing a scene with a big, it wasn't an axe, it was more like a, what do you call those things? That you, not a hatchet, but like something heavy that you hit people on the head with, a mallet.
A mallet, okay, yeah.
And of course, you don't do it one time, you do it a number of times again and again and again. And I was like, oh, my arms are sore. And he goes, I've got an idea. He goes, why don't we do a horror workout? Because doing these horror films is a workout because you're running a lot, you're having to fight a lot, you're having to deal with chainsaws and come after people with chainsaws. And so we thought it would be a great idea to do like 3 different skits on it, and also put some of my movie clips in there, and just made it a 2-day wonder horror workout with sexily scant, sexy women and zombies and the whole works.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And do you remember, and you just put that out on VHS at the time, I guess?
Oh yeah, it was on VHS, and then just last year it was remastered, and we put commentary on there, and it turned out amazingly good. We had no idea how it was going to look after it had been in that tin for so long. We were very nervous, but it turned out fantastic.
And that's now out. Is that available on your website?
Yes, it's on my website, which is www.linneaquigley.tv.
Right. And that's a new thing.
That's something. That on the website. We only did 1,000 of them. So it's a limited number of 1,000.
So I've got to get my copy now then.
You got to get your copy now.
I will be indeed. Excellent. I'll be picking that up.
Out.
So that's fantastic. Yeah, I'll need a workout. I sit at an office desk all day eating cake, so I'll need a workout. Are there any genres you've ever wanted to work in but not yet had the chance, or are you just happy in the sort of horror genre?
I'm happy in the horror genre. I would like to work on some more, like, I like action films, like like I mentioned, Linda Hamilton in Terminator, or Sigourney Weaver in Aliens, like a part, something like that would be really fun to do.
Right. So someone needs to write you
something like a spy movie, or like a female James Bond, something like that would be really fun to do. I haven't done yet.
I'm surprised no one, like, after you did your fitness thing and some of the movies you've done where you're kind of a bit more kick-ass and stuff, I don't know why someone hasn't come to you and pitched that to you and said, why don't you do it?
Well,
that's a surprise.
There was a big, until The Walking Dead, there was a big stigma of people would say, when you did horror films, oh, you do those kind of films. So you kind of were, like, made to feel, or they wanted you to feel like you were stigmatized, that you just did those type of films. You didn't do You've Got Mail or something like that.
Right.
So
you wouldn't want to.
The Walking Dead, like I was talking about before, we might get around to it. There's the real horror fans, and then there's the fans that watch The Walking Dead and they think they're horror fans.
Yes.
But they don't have a clue about, movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or I Spit on Your Grave, or
and how do you feel
Fulci, or anything.
And how do you feel about those guys?
Well, I just let them say their piece, and I go collect my paycheck and do what I like to do.
Right. No, I agree. No, I understand. I mean, I've been into movies now for as long as I can remember, but I being on the internet, obviously putting yourself out there and doing a show like this or whatever, you hear all sorts, sorts of opinions from all sorts of people, and you get some staggeringly misinformed views.
Yeah, and it's appalling what people will say.
Right.
I guess it's to make themselves feel better or something like that, that they're these, because I've noticed just at conventions, there's the true blue fans, and you can tell them apart now. They kind of have a different look. And there's the ones that are the nouveau fans, and now it's chic, so they're clustering to the conventions.
Yeah, and it would be. I think it would be better if there was more. Like one of the things I've tried to maintain doing the internet, and obviously doing the show and being on Twitter and things, is a sense of positivity. There's so much negativity out there, and so I think anyone who we all have to start somewhere. So I think that anyone who kind of comes to a thing genuinely, even if it is through something like The Walking Dead. As long as they then kind of expand from that. I mean, I remember when I first heard the Beatles, the most popular, well-known, billions of fans around the world type band, right? But I heard them from my mum. Now, if I just stuck with them, or if I'd just gone on to like boy bands or whatever, or guitar-based bands or whatever it was, that would be fine, but it wouldn't really be expanding anything. But if you read into it and you find out, oh, they were fans of Chuck Berry or Fats Domino or whatever it is, and then you expand through there, and then you find out those guys were into blues music from the 30s and the 40s, and then you find out about Americana and roots and jazz and all that stuff. If you expand out from something very popular like The Walking Dead and go, okay, Greg Nicotero, who's now obviously big-time producer and effects guy on The Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah, and he's a sweetheart, yes.
Yeah, fantastic guy. If the right kind of fan, to me, and I'm not trying to be snobby, but the right kind of fan is someone who goes, okay, Greg Nicotero or Frank Darabont, who are these guys? And looks into their past, looks into what they've done, looks into where they come from. Like I did with the Beatles, or like you might do with, a comedy or whatever it is that kind of... So I think that's... But people who are just doing it because it happens to be trendy at this, I don't really understand that. I've never been one to kind of go with trends. I try and either get out ahead of them or be like 10 years too late.
Right. No, I agree. And everybody's fawning over Daryl, and, it's like, it's funny. It's like, there's a couple of those series that are kind of like that, and it's more of the faux fan.
Yeah, I know, I do. And do you get? I mean, I suppose would they come up to you though? What would they? it would be more hardcore or more informed people who would come up to yourself. Because, I mean, I wouldn't imagine... Do folk fans sort of watch things like Return of the Living Dead or Creepazoids or...
No, I don't think they do. I think they watch whatever's in style at the time.
Right.
You know, they watch True Blood or they watch...
I can't... all these series, I can't... they're not ones I really like. I mean, I watch...
Yeah.
I watch The Walking Dead just because I feel as a zombie fan you should kind of support it. But I can't say it's one of my favorite. I find the writing very boring. I hate to say it, but I do. I rewatched Day of the Dead again the other day, which is a movie that gets lots of stick, but I think is far better than most people give it credit for. It's
yeah.
Great film, the original, and the dialogue in that, the characters in that, the arguments they have, because Romero makes it all about the humans. He doesn't make it about the zombies particularly. He makes it about the humans and how petty and silly we all are. And they're the characters you need on The Walking Dead. That's the script you need on something with a bit of pep, something with a bit of excitement about it.
Right.
They seem to think that if they have a big violent scene, that's excitement. But it means nothing if it's not based on any real character development you care about, you know?
Exactly.
Anyway, I'm going off on one, but...
No, that's very true. It's very interesting that you said that, yes.
So talk about fans. So you've got hardcore horror fans. So have you got any convention stories? What are your favorite things about your fans in particular?
Like you said, they're very loyal and most of them I found are just so animal friendly. If they hurt an animal on screen, even if it's, it is faked, but they get very upset. And I've had things where I've taken fans that want to go to get animals out of the shelters and get them homes but it's really funny, they'll be talking, they'll go, oh yeah, the scene in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they sawed the guy, that was a great scene. And then they'll be talking and they'll go, but when they killed this dog in this other movie, I didn't like it. I just wanted to leave the theater. Yeah, they're really great people. Well, I've met a lot of great people and remained friends with a lot of people for many years that I met at conventions.
Yeah, I mean, everyone I've spoken to, and I've had the pleasure of speaking to Barbara Crampton and William Sadler and some other people who've been throughout the genre. They've all been lovely. They've all been really lovely, really nice people, really, friendly homebody types. And it's really great that they're so supportive of us, just in the same way that we've been, supportive of them and their careers, and that's wonderful. And you're exactly the same, very supportive, very friendly, very communicative, and it's a pleasure for us as fans first and foremost to, the internet allows us this kind of access, and it's weird because if I went back to my 16-year-old self and said, oh yeah, you're going to spend an hour on the phone with Linnea Quigley, I'd probably wouldn't believe me. I'd be like, shut up, it wouldn't be something that I could possibly believe.
Right, like if I went back to my 16-year-old self going, oh, you'll be doing movies, I'd be like, no way.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful the way that the world has worked out. But I was going to say that talking about true horror fans, are there any films? Because I watched a lot of interviews in preparation for this, and it's an odd tightrope you walk because you want to make sure that the people who are listening hear about the films they love. So they're gonna want to know about Return of the Living Dead, and they're gonna want to know about Night of the Demons and movies like that, and Savage Streets and things. And obviously we're doing the Christmas episode. But are there any movies that you wish people would talk about that they just don't talk about, that are personal favorites of yours that you love?
Films? Let's see. Most of them they do talk about. A lot of people don't talk about a lot of the Italian films, which I think are really good, and I'm pretty sure they came before our zombie films even.
Right.
There's a lot of really good ones out there.
Are you meaning like the Argento and the Bava?
The Argento and Fulci and all those guys.
But no, I mean, they're great, and we're definitely going to do episodes on them, and I've been on other shows that have talked about them. I'm a big Giallo fan. But I meant more specifically, like movies that you've been in. Like I was talking to my friend Doug the other day, and he was talking about like movies like Robot Ninja and things that people wouldn't necessarily bring up. Or I noticed you were in the Innocent Blood, the John Landis movie, and things like that. And I just meant that you obviously get asked all the time about the movies that we've talked about tonight, and it's been great. And fans want to hear about those movies because they're the popular ones, they're the fan favorites. But are there any ones out of your filmography that you were like, I wish someone would ask me about, Robot Ninja, or, as you mentioned earlier, the Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bolorama and stuff like that?
Mainly Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bolorama, because I really like that film, and I think it was a good job, and it was fun, and it was just a really good romp.
Yeah.
And then there's another one that very few people have seen that is a really fun film, too, called The Girl I Want. It could be because people really haven't seen it, but it's a really good film. So when people get to see it, I'd like them to ask me about that.
Okay, The Girl I Want?
The Girl I Want, yes.
Okay. Do you know when that was from?
Oh, that was close to when the Sorority Babes and all that was filmed.
Okay.
Many moons ago.
Many moons ago. No, I was just interested. I mean, I suppose the two we could have talked about would have been Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers and Sorority Babes, which I've also seen.
Hookers, yes.
Which I've also seen, but it just, I didn't want to keep you all night. You've done so many fantastic movies. I could talk about tons of them, but.
I'm going to be directing this spring.
Yeah, I was going to say you've got 6 movies out this year alone, and you've got even more coming out next year. Tell us about them.
Well, I'm going to be directing. Herschel Gordon Lewis is involved with it, and he's going to be doing segments. I'm one of the directors, and there's 4 other horror icons, which I can't mention who they are right now.
Right.
But in the spring, I'm going to be doing that. That'll be it's Slaughterhouse. And it's going to be really interesting to do that. There's Blood Drive that's a possible one I'm going to be doing. Something for David Dakota. I don't even know the name of it. Just a lot of different things that are on the block. Hopefully, Big Fat Crazy Ethel, people will put the rest of the money in so we can finally do it. And then a lot will come out, like Demonica, the musical I did, The Unquenchable Thirst for Boner Juice.
That's fantastic.
Funny title. Hunters. It's hard to remember. It came from the ether.
And are you going
to think of the ones I've done? Disciples and Blood Story.
Right.
And I probably forgot 1 or 2, but there's a lot of them that are going to be coming out.
And people can find out all about that on your website,
on
Facebook
my website
page.
They go there and they can find out where I'm at conventions. They can find out all kinds of different things about me. Nice.
Excellent. Yeah, so I think that's all the questions I had for you. I just want to say thanks ever so much for being on the show. It's been a fantastic pleasure to talk to you. Just a real thrill.
Thank you. It's been great talking to you. Just listening to your voice is amazing.
Yes, apparently, yes, people like the voice, so they say. But no, it's been an absolute dream talking to you, Linnea, and I know the fans are going to absolutely love the episode once we put it up. And thanks ever so much for you've been retweeting everything that I've been posting and putting it up on your Facebook page and stuff. I mean, something we both put up the other day got like 1,500 views already, which is just fantastic for the show. So
isn't that great?
It's really great. All right, thanks ever so much for your time, and have a good evening.
Thank you, and good night.
Are you fighting with your inner self? Can you decide to commit without guilt or fear? Are you endlessly searching, tired of what mainstream has to offer? Searching through an endless supply of movies that seem never ending, each just like the last, nothing jumping out at you, knowing that committing to a crappy movie can take up to 2 hours of your life that you'll never get back. That's where we can help. We're Jason and Sean, and we're Film Reviews from the Basement. We take in as many genre films as possible, leaving a simple, committed rating, good, bad, or ugly, of many of the films you probably wondered about. We broadcast worldwide twice monthly at www.wecamefromthebasement.com. There, you can find archived episodes, radio shows, and we don't stop there. We're committed to writing reviews and movie news and interviews with actual movie stars, writers, and directors of movies across multiple genres that you've probably heard of. If you're cool like us, or want to be less snooty or less pretentious, come find us at www.wecamefromthebasement.com. This has been a public service announcement from Jason and Sean.
Hi, I'm Doug the Geek.
And I'm Ashley the Academic. And we're the
hosts of the Above the... What are you doing?
We're supposed to say the title of the show, the Above the Line Podcast.
Yeah, we're supposed to say it together, you dullard. Now, let's try it again.
And we're the hosts of
No, not yet. Hold on. I'm just kidding. Go for it.
And we're the hosts of the Above...
Oh.
Come on!
Okay, forget that. Just tell them where they can find us.
Find the Above the Line Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Facebook.com/The Above the Line Podcast, or just check us out at AboveTheLinePodcast.com.
We cover the best and most interesting films in the history of cinema from both my own geeky perspective
and my more cultured academic perspective.
And it's fun.
Sort of.
Yeah, sort of. So check us out.
The Above the Line
Podcast. Yeah, you were still off.
Merry Christmas.
It's a Merry Christmas episode. We're both filled with the joys of the season, and it's going to be an exciting one. It's going to be thrilling. It's going to be lovely.
We're both very New York jolly, which is quite grumpy.
Yeah, which is get out of my way, man with Santa hat.
We are Bill Murray pre-Ghosts and Scrooge. That's what we are.
I'm not that bad. I'm not quite that bad. I'm not opening a drawer and looking at a mirror of myself to see how evil my smile can be. I'm not quite that.
Fair enough.
I'm not asking anyone to nail antlers to a mouse. Staple. Oh, well, whatever. Potato. But anyway, yes, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Ho, 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 ho. And I hope you're all at home now in your Christmas regalia, your hats, your big red coats with your white ermine, your little black gloves, and your bells. And I hope you're having a damn fine time. Either that, or if you're across the ocean in wonderful old Blighty, I'm missing you. And you're probably wearing your coloured paper crowns and having read a rather mediocre joke and or saying, because they've run out of jokes, from the inside
Have
of
they
your
run out of
Christmas
jokes?
cracker.
Is that what Christmas has come to? There are literally no more jokes.
Do you not remember when, like, Marks and Spencer's tried to do their, like, upmarket Christmas cracker?
I do remember.
And when you got it, it had, like, a scientific fact in it rather than a joke.
Did you know
that
life is ultimately meaningless?
You know that a squirrel can carry 15 times its own weight. I don't care.
I did not know that. Will I ever need to know that?
No.
Unlikely.
So anyway, we are going to...
It's Christmas.
It's Christmas. And it is good.
Merry Christmas.
It is lovely. And everywhere is covered in lights. And there's Christmas music. And it's all rather nice, really. And I shouldn't be such a Scrooge about it. And we've just been to see a Christmas-themed movie, one could say, that features Santa prominently.
And it takes place on Christmas.
It does, right?
Yeah, Christmas.
It takes place on more than one Christmas, in fact, because it's over 3 years.
3 Christmases.
3 Christmases.
3 Christmases.
Okay, so let's give them clues and see if they guess. Not that we're going to be able to hear what they guess.
Why would they? How would they guess?
So it takes place over 3 Christmases.
3 Christmases.
It involves a murderous Santa Claus, and it features...
involves 2 murderous Santa Clauses.
Right, and one Santa Claus who's innocent who gets murdered.
Is it just one innocent one?
By a policeman.
Is it one innocent Santa that gets murdered, or is there another one?
No. Only one innocent Santa that gets gunned down by an inept policeman.
So what was the second? Oh, the second one was just... one of them gets punched. An innocent Santa gets punched.
An innocent Santa gets punched by a small child.
Anyway, we are talking...
It features our other guest on this episode, Linnea Quigley, who you will have just heard an interview with.
Okay. We're talking about Silent Night, Deadly Night.
'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. Survive Christmas, Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Silent Night, Deadly Night. And there wasn't a silent night in the whole movie.
No, there wasn't.
All the nights were filled with the screams of the innocent.
They were very much...
Well, I don't know how innocent they were, because a lot of them were naked and naughty.
There was a lot of that. There was an awful lot of skin. There was a weird bit when just before we should. Well, why don't you, while you're choosing, shall I give a brief rundown of the plot?
I would love it if you did.
I will give a brief rundown of the plot.
In the Christmas spirit, I give the floor to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay, so it all involves. Well, I quite like the structure of it, because instead of it being the
have you already mentioned structure in terms of?
No, all right. I'm sorry. No. I quite like the fact that it was about the birth of a serial killer.
It was
how that serial killer came to be,
and how that
it starts off
more often than you might think.
Yes. It starts off with basically...
In fact, technically, everyone in that nunnery or orphanage is going to be a serial killer.
I think they started with the... we've got ourselves a murderous Santa Claus. We want to make a film about a murderous Santa Claus. And they worked backwards from there. And it's like, well, what would turn somebody into a murderous Santa Claus? What would somebody need to see when they're a child that would turn them into a murderous Santa Claus?
Pretty much what he sees.
And that's pretty much what we got to see, which was, what if, as a small child, you saw your father shot
in the
and
face,
your mother raped by a Santa Claus,
a belligerent old drunk,
a swearing Santa Claus
who just held up a convenience store in the funniest way possible.
But what was weird about it, even though it was funny, right? Oh, and anyway, and then it jumps forward, and you see him as a slightly older kid in an orphanage, being disciplined by an extremely unsympathetic mother superior, who believes that the best way to deal with this extreme trauma.
Well, there's two nuns in there. There's one nice nun, and she's saying oh, look, it's clear that around Christmas
time... Very much, I felt like a collision of psychoanalytic theories.
Yeah, it was. On one hand, you had the sensible
She was
woman.
very much in favour of the immersion therapy. You know what I mean? Very much confronting his fears is the only thing that will get him over it. In other words,
beating him
you
with
will
a belt.
sit on Santa's knee, or I will hit you with a belt.
Yeah.
Right?
Which, let's be fair, happened to you and me quite frequently.
Yeah, of course.
It's what happened. To get me to sit on
all
a
our
strange
families
man's
have
lap,
been massacred.
you would have to beat me with a belt, because I'm not sitting on a strange man's lap for love.
That's true.
For love nor money.
For love nor money.
Nor toffee.
Although money was sort of promised, inherent in the gifts. So you were sort of doing it.
But we never really saw what the gift was that he got. He opened his box excitedly. But
I think they probably talked about it for a few minutes, but then it turned out they were going to break for lunch in an hour, so let's just cut.
Yeah.
A lot of the movie seems to be... I'm pretty sure that the Christmas toy store at the end that he worked in...
You mean the beginning?
The beginning, sorry. No. I mean, sorry.
In the last
part of the
movie.
So anyway, I'm sorry, because I always do this when I summarise. I always fucking head.
Right. You would never win any
with the small child. No, I would not. I would not. Ralston is first.
Wrote about.
So, in the first year, you see him as a kid being put through trauma.
Put that anywhere, pal.
That's the idea of a murderous Santa Claus. Then the idea of... Wait, I'm not ready.
Oh, you're kidding.
Okay, a few more minutes?
No worries.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, man. Sorry. Because I was summarising and then I got...
Okay, well, let me take the reins.
Yeah, you should take the reins. Yeah.
So, once Jim has given his rambling summation of what it was a movie that didn't really require...
Sorry.
The movie...
Balboa. I'm going to get a Balboa. I know what I want now.
The movie begins...
Balboa?
A Balboa.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much.
And a Monte Cristo, please.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Cheers, mate.
Nice. So, the most important scene in the whole movie, almost, is the old grandfather at the beginning. You can't really talk about Silent Night, Deadly Night without mentioning.
That's true.
The insane. Because it starts off a bit like.
Well, it starts off with every horror movie ever, where it starts off with a family in a car driving somewhere, and I realise.
Right, but it's also like Christmas Vacation. It's almost got a feel of the Griswolds about
suddenly,
it.
when it started, I suddenly thought, I wonder how many horror movies I've seen where it starts with a family, or what's in the. Oh, just look like a. There's a fly in his water. Don't mind, because I'm not going to drink my water.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want yours.
Yeah, so, and they go to visit their kid's grandfather.
Yeah.
Which is a very odd, I didn't know what to expect.
And they've driven miles.
I had no idea what to expect from this movie.
Right.
So when they turn up at the Utah home for the mental or whatever, that was really unsettled. They clearly had a guy who did the signs, because there were two like prominent wooden signs.
Oh, it was the entire movie was probably financed off the back of like Uncle Dell's signage company.
Right. So Utah home for the mental, where they go visit the granddad, and the granddad looks quite like a little bit like Santa.
A little bit, but like almost like a sort of red-faced, brusque, drunk Santa.
Yeah, but actually I didn't know what to expect from the movie, so I thought, because he sat there saying nothing, and then the parents went away, and the little boy was there, and the crazy old grandfather, who they think doesn't speak, turns to the kid and starts talking about how Santa's going to come and get him, and Santa punishes the bad boys.
If you haven't been good, you're going to get punished. He says, Christmas Eve is one of the most damn scary days of the whole
world. In one 2-minute conversation, which I thought was kind of cool,
he puts the willies up the kid.
He turns what's supposed to be like the sweetest, nicest, like most exciting time of the year for a child into the scariest thing that this kid could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
In a minute and a half is all it takes to turn a child's imagination.
He's a particularly scary old man.
Yeah, but you see, I wasn't sure. I thought,
and plus, the whole idea of what's good about it, if you really want to get analytical about it.
Yes, I do.
Okay, fair enough.
Humour later.
Fair enough.
Analysis now.
Yes, I am sitting with, after all, critic, Ray Dolan. That it plays on the fears of two things that children have, regardless of Christmas, and that is old men and hospitals, and or old people homes, and or whatever.
Yes,
like as a kid, you don't want to be confronted with the idea of being in a home and dying, and also like old people in general are just kind of creepy to children. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like grandparents and stuff, they're a little bit odd.
Well, it sort of depends on the grandparents, isn't it? Because some of them, like I remember my grandparents being like quite warm and like soft and very like the opposite. Because I know that like nowadays it's like, ooh, old people are creepy.
No, I don't.
But I remember when I'm saying, as opposed to like what's become the norm of like, you know, like, oh, clowns are scary, you know, that kind of thing. Like, I don't remember, I wasn't scared by clowns as a kid. I thought clowns were funny. And I wasn't scared by old people or creeped out by old people when I was a kid. At least my grandparents anyway, were like warm and like something about the white hair like made them like seem very soft. I guess the skin as well, maybe. Like, I don't know, but they were like there was like the unconditional love there or whatever, but not without that kind of parental. So I think what's scary about like this particular old man is that he's all fucking punishment. You know what I mean? He's all about the discipline and none of there's no warmth there. There's no nothing. There's just.
In fact,
like a dire warning from the future.
But he delights in.
Yeah, it's a weird game because then he like pretends he has. When the parents come back in, he pretends he hasn't said anything at all.
And the little kid is amazing, right? The little kid is clearly being shooted off screen by someone, but even so, the little kid's face, in general, when he makes like scared faces,
they did manage
is
to get
incredible.
The kids to like the kids in the whole movie to make like pretty convincing like scared faces.
No, the funny thing about this movie is that it's clearly like low budget to all.
Extremely low budget, yeah.
But at no point is there any of that acting that's normally associated with low budget. Like the acting is pretty decent throughout. I mean, I
got on with that.
You know, there are certain laughable characters in it, of course, but they're almost like they're intentionally.
Well, it's got an interesting structure.
Laughable. Like the people who made the movie are aware that that montage of him like becoming a man and working a shop is inherently funny. I mean, they're not doing that.
Yeah, that's true.
They're not doing that.
That's true.
They're not doing that like genuinely, and they think it's funny.
There is a certain like.
For example, when the guy who shuts the store up, the way he works, suddenly goes, it's 7 o'clock, it's over. Let's all get shit-faced, right?
Yeah.
That's the filmmakers know that's fun, right? They're making a party movie.
True.
They're making a party movie. They're making a movie with gore, breasts, and laughs. That's what it's all about.
Which is why
it's not a scary film.
Yeah, because that's why when we watched it in quite a good environment, because it was full of. Yes, I would love that. Thank you very much. We watched an environment where it was full of people like laughing and having a giggle and enjoying and that was quite cool. So we were able to like make our own jokes. Thank you. We were able to make our own jokes, and I think entertain. You know, there were people in the audience who laughed at certain things, and then we noticed those things, and they were fun.
Because I think it comes. I mean, I'd have to look into this with my slasher book, but I think it comes sort of in the middle to the end of what is called like that early '80s golden era. That kind of begins with
what was the
Black Christmas
84,
and Halloween.
Right? They say Christmas 84.
Because you have Black Christmas and Halloween. They're like the first two to come out in like the golden age,
right?
And then. And then Friday the 13th and a whole bunch of others start up. And then you start getting unique ones like the Prowler and like this one and so on. So, and it's odd because to go ahead and do another Christmas-based horror when you'd already had Black Christmas, like everyone always thinks of Halloween as the first one, but actually Black Christmas predates it. The idea of the holiday-themed slasher is actually started with Black Christmas. So, to go ahead and do another Christmas one so soon in the genre's arc, it's kind of odd. But it's good enough, weird enough, cult enough, and makes enough money that there are actually 5 Silent Night, Deadly Nights.
Well, I
believe. Unless they made more, there might even be 6.
I can see why, because there was definitely...
even though the second one is just
there was
mad.
Definitely squandered potential in that first one, I felt like.
Of what?
Well, I don't mean this as a criticism at all. I just mean they made a movie, just like you said, it's supposed to be a party movie. But I felt like there was more scope for more, like Chris, like, and him he kept saying punish, which I get is he's
right.
The whole movie is pushing him towards a total
meltdown, which he has in the stockroom of the shop when he sees
the woman that he fancies,
the like New York greaser type who runs the stockroom, like he's king of the stockroom, who just sits around like drinking J&B and Pepsi.
But again,
doing no
even though
work
he's supposed
at all.
to be a judge, he says to them like you were fine when you arrived, and ever since Christmas rolled around, you've been a fucking prick,
right?
You know, and I think he probably has, because he's not going to tell anybody that. Well,
but that's what's genius is at the end of that montage of him like getting along and helping children and grinning at the woman and all the rest of it. That's mine, thank you.
Okay, one more. Great, terrific, thank you very much.
The guy unfurls the banner that says Merry Christmas on it, and immediately he's like, oh yeah, it's going to be Christmas. All right. It immediately reminds him of just a nightmare on wheels that he's had to live with.
So we got temporarily distracted here by our delicious food arriving.
That's all
right. But I thought it was what I thought was cool about it was that the whole film, at least to start with anyway, is about pushing him towards this like psychotic break.
Right.
So he is the lead character, but then when he does have his psychotic, just the one anyway, or maybe I just got lucky. When he has his break and goes mental, it is done with an eye, on entertainment, and that's having her answer the door, only dressed in those shorts is like all of the death scenes are like that. They're not meant for suspense. Like
no, there's a lot of nudity and silliness. Right. But you see, it's also the fact that he's going through the town and he just happens to rock up on the house where 2 youngsters are getting naked on the pool table. Like, how did he happen to know that was going on?
I guess conceivably he was peeking through all the windows.
Yeah, but they were downstairs.
There's a sort of a half-hearted effort to make it about. It's not that half-hearted. There's a lot of there's the whole religious thing with the nun, who says to him like, which again I only just put this together. she basically puts in his head that the reason that his parents died, I guess, is because
they were naughty.
And that sex is naughty.
But that had already been...
He keeps flashing back. Because while he was watching them, the couple in the convent having their way with each other.
Which is never explained as to why there's a couple in a convent having... No. But yeah, right. Let's assume they were the caretaker and the cook or something.
He flashes back to his mum getting raped by Santa, which is that's a hell of a sentence.
Right.
And the most superior says, because it's very naughty, and people who are naughty get punished. I think it kind of twists him up as about like what sex is.
Oh no, there's a lot of well, he has that sexual nightmare about the woman from the stockroom.
Oh yeah, he's having a wet dream about the girl he fancies, and then obviously
they get
Santa stabs him in the back.
Right. So he has it's completely about his social nightmares, and it's completely about the Christmas period, and it's completely about how like stern religion corrupts, and it's completely about like the treatment of children, and it's about all that kind of stuff.
There was definitely some interesting things going on,
and it's also about.
But it was also
about police chiefs who walk incredibly slowly down corridors and sigh in the most brilliant way possible. How is there not a movie just about him? He was incredible.
He was like the representation of the futility of order. The illusion of order. He was wandering around, essentially suffering a constant existential crisis about his role. He didn't even seem like that bothered about that one of his men shot
a priest,
an old priest, by mistake.
Yeah. But that scene escalates in hilarity because he guns, if you're me, he guns down a Santa Claus in front of the faces of lots of children. Right. In which case, that's immediately hilarious.
Right.
Even if it was a really bad guy, that was immediately hilarious because you know that all of a sudden every single one of them is having like mad, corruptive nightmares. Then you cut back to the nun and the chief like racing to the scene, and you find out it's a priest. More hilarity. Then you find out that he couldn't hear him being told to turn round, which I'm still one of your first. Couldn't hear because he was a deaf old priest. Which just deaf old priest gets gunned down dressed as Santa in front of the eyes of children. Hilarity. I could dine out.
That's the thing. A lot about the movie is actually pretty unbelievably bleak.
Oh yeah, completely. It's very dark and weird.
It's very...
Not only that, think about what happens after his parents get attacked.
Yeah.
You see the screaming baby in the back seat. So not only that has happened in front of the eyes of a child, but it's happened in front of the eyes of like a baby, like literally a babe in arms, right? And then sort of weird gospel music about like baby, baby. It plays out as the camera like pans away from his mum's breasts.
It's very
she's just been stabbed in the neck. Yeah, so it's...
But if you had like Santa...
But the best thing...
Hold up at the beginning. Hold up...
Oh yeah, before Santa goes on to kill his parents, there's a hilarious scene where he goes into this convenience store, and the guy behind the convenience store counter is just grumpy from the get-go. He's like, oh, bloody hell, Santa, it's bad enough having it on the TV, I have to have it in my store as well. And they said, I suppose it's not just about... What did he say? It's also about greed or something?
No, I can't remember. Yeah, something like that. Something about greed. But it was just so bleak to have him, like, to have Santa shoot the bike and then only get $30 out of it.
$31, yeah.
They didn't even give him a decent haul.
Right.
Everybody was so awful.
You know what it was like? It was like the world that Bottom, the sitcom, takes place in.
Yeah, it was.
Like, everyone is just curmudgeonly, and their shirts are filthy, and their hair is ridiculous. Nobody looked young and attractive except him, and he goes nuts.
And
the ladies in it, of course. The ladies, of course, are... you know, the young, beautiful slasher victims one would expect.
Right.
But what I mean is outside of...
Well, I do know what you mean.
Outside of...
I like the Bottom of the sitcom thing. It does take place in that well.
The teenagers, let's say, because the blonde guy and whatever... Yeah, okay, aside the guys who the movie's made for, us, let's say. Everyone else, all the older people, the authoritarians, the Santa Claus or whatever, they're all just grubby. Like none of them. It doesn't. What I mean is, there's no affluent people in there. That's what I mean. Like Ira's toy store is like this rundown, grotty as all hell kind of thing that you would expect to see in Bottom. The convenience store that he holds up at the beginning is particularly grubby. Like everything just seems to be coated with just a particular layer of this hasn't been touched since 1972.
Everybody except children hates Christmas. Right. They're all complaining about how they hate fucking Christmas.
Right. The older nun is also going on about greed all the time.
Yeah.
She says, I don't see gratitude, I only see greed. There's a really hilarious scene where all the kids are miserably opening up one gift each. You know what I mean? Because they're in an orphanage.
So what the hell? There's the poor kid who's having a nightmare about, like, you know how it's Christmas, and you know how 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, his mum was raped and his dad was murdered by Santa Claus on Christmas Eve. So he's a bit of a tough time at Christmas.
And he ties him to a bed.
Right, he has a nightmare, runs away. That was so bleak.
Right.
The kid being tied to the bed and just left there, and the nice nun, supposedly,
supports it.
She just goes, oh, I'm not sure about this, and then just shuts the door. Well, if you're not sure about it,
that's
bleak.
No, the whole thing is, and I. But
I like that description.
But it's funny because of it.
Right, sorry.
There is no way on, the green earth you would ever want to be there, live there, visit there. You know what I mean? Is
that why they shot it in Utah?
No, I don't know about that. But I don't want to disparage the whole state of Utah. I'm sure there's some very stunning areas.
Well, but that was a weird thing, wasn't it? Because when they drove in to that town where the
Granddad
Utah's home for the mental, whatever. That's what it was called.
I know.
Home for the mental.
I know. Splendid.
There were these beautiful mountains surrounding it, but the whole thing was, you're right, was just, it all looked like cheap and grubby. Not the movie, but the place and what was going on.
Yeah.
It looked like what was happening. There wasn't a giant contrast between. Like, if they made this film nowadays, they probably want to up the contrast between the happy people, the shiny faces, the bright lights, the sparkling presents, and then the horror of the murders and the kills. Whereas everything was kind of grey and a bit bleak, and everyone was miserable, and nobody liked Christmas, and then the guys
even the Christmas party.
It's almost like the reaction these people would have had, like perhaps in their afterlife, after they've been killed at Christmas in this way, would be the detective's reaction.
Right.
It would be like.
Yeah, just a big heavy sigh.
Right?
What I liked as well was
the horror wasn't in the contrast; it was in the exaggeration of the meaninglessness of their existence.
Yeah, and the fact that the most joyous we see anyone is drinking cheap whiskey out of paper cups in a shitty toy store,
or having a quick spot of How's Your Father in the back room.
Right.
There's no loving relationships. Everybody's just knocking. There's rain. There's a lot of rain.
Well, the couple,
on the pool table,
Linnea and her boyfriend were fairly. She seemed fairly happy. He wasn't abusing her.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
He was being a little.
And the people in the convent, they seemed quite happy too.
Except the old one.
No, I mean the two people who were.
Oh.
No, they
got beaten with a belt.
I'm not saying that they were bleak, but they were. They didn't like Christmas. They wanted the Carrots to shut up.
Right.
The only people enjoying Christmas at home were those Carrots.
Yeah. Do you see the woman up the front making an exaggerated head movement?
Yes, I did.
She was incredible.
She was. But they were the only people I can think of who were actually enjoying Christmas throughout the whole movie, I think.
Yeah, I guess so.
Christmas was a chore. Or boring, and the kids, I suppose.
Yeah, the guy who ran the store. That was one of my favourite scenes. Was when the mothers all brought their children to. Well, this was great. On his, like you say, his journey to finally snap.
Right.
One of the steps, hilariously, was that the store Santa, right? Why the store even bothered, I have no idea. But the store Santa broke his ankle or something skiing. So the old woman who's in the shop, she tries to get the old guy who runs the shop to be Santa. And he's like, no, I know who we're going to make Santa. the stock boy, we're going to elevate him to Santa, right? Not knowing that, of course, the stock boy dressing up like Santa is going to be a major, like, no-no on his way to becoming
This is going to be the final straw.
Wow, the penultimate straw.
Everything okay, guys?
Yeah,
Everything's great. Yeah, thanks, man.
Yes, that's like penultimate straw, yeah.
Because the ultimate straw was seeing the attempted rape in the back room.
Yeah, but again, up to that point, I wasn't sure. I still wasn't sure what was going to happen. I couldn't figure out, right? Because I thought, well, because again, I didn't know anything about it, right? So I couldn't figure out, right? Is it going to be that they're going to undergo some kind of attack by like another crazed Santa?
Right.
And the only way this guy's ever going to get over this horrible childhood that he's had
would be to take him down.
Right. To actually kill Santa, as it were. You know what I mean? Because he was the protagonist of the movie. He's the guy that we've been following from the very beginning.
Right. It's almost...
But instead, they go, no, there's going to be no like happy ending for this bloke. We're just going to keep pushing him until his only the only way he can possibly hold it together is by going off on a murderous killing spree.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only option.
And decapitating the least enthusiastic tobogganists on the planet.
Good God. No, they were most enthusiastic. They need to do more tobogganing. You know what I mean? Their problem was they were serious lack of exciting tobogganing in their life.
Right, they were very enthusiastic about the most miserable looking. Again, the most miserable looking in the dead of night in the woods toboggan run ever, with two of like cheap plastic shitty toboggans. You know what I mean?
It was also bleak. You know what I mean?
But it's a hilarious movie.
It is extremely hilarious. It is exactly like Bottom or The Young Ones, something like that, where everything's bleak and everybody's miserable, but it is really funny because of those horrific things that happen.
Right.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was funny.
I think, in its own way, this diner that we're eating in is pretty apt.
Yeah. Well, I quite like this diner.
No, look around. It's gloriously apt in its filthiness and its general
you don't like it?
Degrading kind of. It is the most. What's the word? I don't know what the word is. But the most kind of low rent of the ones in the area. And not necessarily in a like hip way, but in a sort of this is where you would come if you were alone at Christmas to die into a plate of stuffing.
I did have a couple of bleak evenings there on my own.
Yeah. Well, I like it. That we've... No. I'm not criticising. I'm just saying it's very apt.
We should point out, because we do actually normally say, we decided to come to a diner that's more local to us. Because we went and saw the movie in Chelsea. Pretty much next to the Chelsea Hotel.
At the Bow Tie Cinema.
Bow Tie Cinema.
Clearview Cinema, right?
But because somebody forgot the recorder, so to come back. So we're going to one that's near us.
Right.
I quite like it, but I think they might be doing something with this building. Like I think they might be closing the building or doing something like that.
No, it's
You don't like it.
It's fine.
It's okay. You don't like it.
No,
I'm not in love with it. I'm not married to the diner.
It's the kind of place you would expect to find at the end of the Strip in North Las Vegas. At the end of a night,
you would know.
With a lot of people kind of coughing into their losses and slowly falling into.
You've lived in some bleak places.
Yeah,
on Wickham.
Yeah.
Las Vegas.
Oh no!
Who would have thought those places would have anything in common?
I am at home in the bleak. Like I am abundantly at home in the bleak. I know how to get on with bleakness.
Do you think like morning in Las Vegas and nighttime in Wickham is like the same?
Yeah.
It's
the waste
the
of hopelessness
of
humanity.
Tastes the same.
The taste of hopelessness was right in the air.
And that, what's that? It's this really weird taste. I can't figure what it is.
That's always good.
It's like Brussels sprouts.
I like biting into things and having a really weird taste.
It tastes like Brussels sprouts.
Well, it's probably all cooked in the same pan.
It's not a bit weird.
Yes. But watching you pick through it is a little weird. This is what hopeless bleakness looks like. Is you picking through whatever meat that is.
How could that be? I mean, it doesn't taste right.
It's not the pickle.
No. Maybe there's some ingredient in a Reuben or in a Balboa that I don't know about.
Okay, this is one of the most repulsive acts I've ever seen.
It's like Brussels sprouts or something. It tastes like they've put crushed Brussels sprouts in my sandwich. Why would anybody put crushed Brussels sprouts in a sandwich?
Dude, you wanted to come here. So let's talk through the movie and your favourite bits.
Okay. I really liked the first time the policeman sighed.
So you were going right to the end of the movie now?
But just because we didn't know that he was a policeman. We didn't know who he was.
You saw him coming down the corridor and your instinct was to say, who's this guy or something? This guy's great or something.
No, it wasn't. It was because he walked to the end of the corridor. Oh no, he was grey. He was like the greyest man I've ever
you said
seen.
this guy's grey. Right. Yeah, another bleak individual.
He had a grey face, grey hair. And
he represented
shirt.
the hopelessness of
he was futility.
Right.
It was futility. If this was like a Greek play, he would have played futility.
Jeff Futile.
Jeff Futility. And he got to the end of the corridor. And we had there was no, we didn't know where he was or what was going on. So all we saw was he gets to the end of this corridor and then he stops. And he looks like the next bit of corridor that he's going to have to walk down. And just there's this very slight kind of involuntary kind of sigh, and then he walks off again. And you're thinking, I just thought that was brilliant because I thought, I hope that's how he walks everywhere. He gets to the end of the street and goes, he has to turn a corner, has to open the door. Stunning futility of existence.
No.
That was one of my favourite bits.
What I think is really odd, but really great, is that you can take a movie that is, and when people watch this, if you haven't seen it, or if you have seen it, you know what we're talking about, that is really as knockabout and as thrown together and as haphazard as this one is, with all the exploitative elements turned up to 11, right?
Yeah.
And yet you can actually look into it kind of deeply. You can actually look into it big and apart.
It
has more. For example, the big ones are Jason, Freddy, and Michael Myers, right? They're your biggies. They're your three franchise biggies in terms of whatever. But what are their stories? Myers is barely even defined. He's just evil personified, and by the time he becomes an adult, he becomes a shape rather than a human. Jason is any number of things throughout the series that they try and make him. At one point, he's even a little demon creature who's able to tongue people and body hop, right?
Wow,
and then,
weird.
Yeah, that's in Jason Goes to Hell.
Somebody explained Freddy to me really well. It was something to do with. It was actually a really, really good idea about.
No, Wes Craven normally has a good idea about it, but what I'm saying is, what is his storyline to becoming that character? Simply that he was a child molester who gets hunted down and is
burned alive.
He is the product of the vengeance of an entire town.
No, but he's also the product of a nun being raped by 500 madmen.
What?
Yeah, that's how he was born. I think it was in 1903, where it's revealed that some nun who worked in the lunatic asylum got trapped or something and got raped by 100 or 200 madmen.
Oh, right.
And the baby was Freddy.
Oh, I don't remember that.
So that's, yeah. And then he grew up and went...
Yeah, but that almost takes away from... Anyway.
Oh, I think that's quite
they're
cool.
always ruining stuff.
But that could plausibly happen.
What? That your baby would be... Your rape baby would grow up to become a supernatural...
No, but the baby of 100 madmen.
No, that isn't plausible. That's just in a movie plausible.
Now that I'm saying it,
yeah,
I realise.
You just said the baby of 100 madmen could grow up to become a supernatural knife-wielding killer. Anyway, what I'm saying... with blades for hands. However, what I'm saying...
He doesn't have blades for hands.
He has a glove with blades on it. Look, let's not get into the... My point being...
He has a point.
Is that in Silent Night, Deadly, before he goes on his...
Yeah.
The predominance of it is telling his story. And all the things that, like you say, push him to the brink of eventually snap.
I agree, that's why.
Right, which you don't get that kind of character development for any other serial killer. And it's almost a shame that he is... Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Here comes another spoiler alert. And so you don't think that I'm being a jerk, I've always put in a spoiler song to let you It's a spoiler alert. Do what? A spoiler alert. Here comes another spoiler alert. And so you don't feel like we've just left you in the dirt, I always put in a spoiler song, so you know when a spoiler is coming along. Shot and killed at the end, because although...
You're right, even the ones that do have some kind of history, like, I don't know, for the sake of argument, but just talking about pure serial killers like Hannibal Lecter,
right,
all their stuff comes after the fact. Like, they're created as the character first,
right,
and then like later on they go, did you know that when he was young he once lived in a castle and ate frogs or whatever?
Right.
I mean, we're supposed to go, oh, frogs, that's a bit like pee.
Right.
I don't know. Who watches Silence of the Lambs movies after Silence of the Lambs? After you saw Hannibal, you went, okay, I'm done with this.
Wait a minute, there's no big scene where anyone says he lived in a castle.
No, but there might as well be, for all I care, in Hannibal Rising or Red Dragon with Edward Norton. When did Edward Norton become rubbish?
Right
like
after Fight Club.
Has he been anything good since? No, he hasn't, is he?
Oh.
What was Incredible Hulk like, by the way?
With him in it, 50% okay and 50% fish.
I wish I'd stop getting them to... Anyway. But yes, I agree with you. It is very interesting that the power of the character comes more from like how far he's pushed and how he inflicts.
What I'm saying is,
because the interesting thing that's happening. I'm sorry. The interesting thing that's happening, I think, is the idea is maybe it might be strong to call it an idea. But
no, I think
he ends up inflicting his own trauma on as many people as he can find.
Right.
He is so alone with this trauma that no one will listen to him. No one even takes it seriously, except like, you know, a nun who's wetter than a fish's wetness.
Right.
That his only recourse is his only way to gain any kind of understanding is to create as much Christmas.
But we're giving the movie way too much credit. But I'm just saying that.
No, I agree. But then, presumably, the mark of a good movie or play or anything is that you can sit afterwards and it makes you think about the world. And like,
right.
That's because if you take something that has got where there are things going on,
right,
then you're gonna, you know, those things are gonna.
And there are definitely things going on
naturally.
Yeah.
But no, because I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking while we were watching it, if they made this nowadays, everything would be like, you know,
well, you'd have
ho ho ho, bitch, or whatever, and it would all be like superficial.
Well, but this is my point: is that they would be like, well, what are exploitive grindhouse horror movies? Oh yeah, they like swear a lot, and we have to make like the breast shots obvious, and we have to have him like saying like you know ho 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 bitch or whatever it is, and they would completely lose any of the kind of weirdness. It's like a weird movie. It's like an unsettling movie. It's funny and you can have a ball with it and it's a party film and like...
But there were definitely bits about that when we were watching it.
When he gives that bloody Stanley knife, the little
that was
box cutter knife, where they call it in this country, they call it box cutter. When he gave him that little bloody box cutter to the little girl after he asked her like 3 times, have you really been good? Have you been good? And then he gave it to her and like kind of eerily grinned and walked out of the house. It's not like the height of like scary originality, but there's something about it where you're like, okay, what was that?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like when you watch it in that environment, like we did in the cinema, where there's lots of guffawing and laughing and all the rest of it. There were plenty of moments in the movie where it was totally quiet and people were genuinely really unnerved.
And you would lean over and say things to me
yes,
like...
Yes, I am done, thank you.
You would lean over and say things to me like, why are there so many tigers in this house?
Oh, that's right, yeah. I want to know why in the house that he goes to as...
Linnea's house.
Linnea's house.
Yeah.
Everywhere there's a big...
well, unless she's just a babysitter, it might not be her house.
It could be babysitter. Yeah, I guess she could be the babysitter, or the elder sister.
Or the elder. I mean, I thought elder sister, but then I don't know whether there was.
Could be elder brother and babysitter, because he was playing pool, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
And he was operating the stereo.
Yeah, it might have been that, I guess. Yeah.
but for whatever reason there were large pictures of tigers everywhere. But there was just a bit like, why are there pictures of tigers?
Well, there was a kind of like wood panelling, kind of jungle themey.
No, there was a huge tiger behind the pool. It was just a big fucking tiger.
But there was also antlers. There was also animals on the walls and stuff.
Well, there were antlers on the walls, but why pictures of tigers? It was just. It wasn't like, oh, there's.
Well, maybe
this is a nice picture.
Maybe
of a
hunter lived there, and they'd been out on safari, and he wanted to kill a tiger.
They live in a tiny house in Utah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with wood panelling.
These are the kind of people who dream about hunting tigers.
Maybe I guess. I just wanted to know who lived there.
Maybe he'd been a Mormon missionary.
It's the most entertaining thing that
Maybe
anyone's
he'd been
noticed.
a Mormon missionary. Maybe he'd gone to Africa. Maybe he brought back some like bongo drums and a large velvet painting of a tiger.
It was more that you've got
to be imaginative.
No. I'm saying you could tell when you saw, because it still sounds like, oh, tigers, how amusing. What I was really saying was you could tell that they'd borrowed the house off somebody.
Right.
That it wasn't really the family's house, because there were all these pictures of like glued to the wood panelling of like canvas representations of fuck off tigers.
Right.
I was just thinking all the way through this. I wonder who owns this house. I wonder who was saying, yeah, you can film your radical low budget horror movie in my gap.
I imagine.
Do you mind pictures of tigers?
I imagine it's a Ron.
Because they are glued to the wall. I can't take them down.
I imagine it's a sort of Ron Burgundy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Or like a Stephen J. Cannell, may rest in peace, with like a roll neck and a pipe and a little beard.
That's what I'm saying. And he's in his jacuzzi.
He probably has a lot of velvet jackets.
He says to the producer,
have I got a house for you?
Yeah, you must film.
You must film.
Do you like tigers? You know what I mean? The guy who owns the house, his pickup line, when he goes into the bars with his roll neck sweater and his beard
pipe
and his huge glasses, sunglasses would be, so do you like tigers?
And his leather jacket that's one size too small, and he just steps out of like an MG midget or something.
Right.
And like wanders up to this little like...
That's why the pictures of tigers interested me.
Right.
Not because it was like sometimes
because you have
my brain goes beyond observation.
Right.
Pictures of tigers. Ho ho ho.
Right.
Pictures of tigers.
Why?
Why
tigers?
Exactly. And this is what the movie.
And that's the name of Jim's new album. Why tigers? Why?
Why tigers? Who tigers?
Yes, I like it.
Yeah. That's
what tigers?
No, that's the magazine I'm starting.
Oh, is it?
What tigers?
What tigers? What tigers?
If people writing and go, I'm building a large
tigers
garden in my, and I want to know what tiger should I get? Well, here at What Tiger.
There are many. I would say that a tiger would be your best.
Or is that like What Tyler's cousin? Is it like What Tyler and What Tiger?
I don't know. What do we think of Linnea? She was good, right?
She was very good. Actually, she was, of all of the people that got murdered, she probably had the most other than the guy who owned the shop, I'd say she probably had the most to do. Because that was an interesting thing about the film, was that instead of introducing you to the protagonist, like spending the first half hour going, oh, these are the teenagers and whatever, and we're going to bump them off one by one. It was all about building up. So the people that he ended up killing, you only had a very short time with.
Right.
But the short time that we spent with her...
And I think that's maybe, again, why it's a little disconcerting.
Yeah.
Is that you spend your time... No, I think we're fine for the moment.
I think we are... Yeah, you know what, I'll have a wee bit more coffee.
More coffee, yes, sir.
But I think that'll be it for us.
Is that... And it's like when Carpenter puts the camera either behind or instead of Michael Myers, he's making you culpable, like you're part of the action, you're part of the thing. And in this movie, the only person you can remotely side with, I guess, is like the nice nun, which isn't really in at the beginning of the end.
And like she's just as culpable as the bad one.
Right.
Because it's all very well going, oh well, I
when
think,
they came for me,
I think maybe we shouldn't be needlessly cruel to him. And the Mother Superior goes, well, I think cruelty is the best medicine. You can't just go, oh, all right then, and leave it at that. You're a rubbish nun.
Right.
D- in the nun exams for you.
F. I really think F. A big F.
F plus.
And she should be forced to wear it around her neck.
Right.
And tell Jesus every night, I'm sorry I got an F.
I'm sorry I'm a nun.
Yeah. I'm sorry I'm a nun.
Yeah. But, there's
what did you do when you tied him to a bed? I did none.
I did none.
Yeah.
But I thought I thought she was very good.
Yeah.
I thought the guy who owned the store was very good. But we didn't have very much.
What I want to ask is, why were they on a pool table? It's got to be the most uncomfortable thing, because she was like, you could see her ribs and stuff. She clearly wasn't like a big lady.
I'll tell you why. Because the guy who owned the house said, "You want to film the pool? There's a really big picture of a tiger." Now, why is he always talking about the tiger?
No, but come on, he's got to have like an oyster bed or something.
Because
like
it was the only room. It was the only room in the house big enough to stick the camera in. That would be my guess. They got there. They got there at 10 in the morning. Where are we going to film? Well, why don't we film them?
Dude, I think it's so much easier. I think that because the majority of it took place seemingly in the basement, right?
Right.
I bet they were like, we're going to film in the basement, and then they just had that bit up by the door and stuff.
Although I just think they probably
because you never went upstairs or like went around inside the house very much.
They probably thought, we're going to have them making out. Where should we have them making out?
On a pool table, because it's exotic, yeah?
Exactly, it was a bit different. And there was a big picture of a tiger there.
Tigers, yeah.
And, the punters love tigers.
Right.
The punters love tigers, they love pictures of tigers.
And they like breasts.
It was directed by like Charles F. somebody Jr.
Right.
But then in the end it was like a film by Chuck Smith.
Right.
All right, that's fine. You could have been directed by Chuck. It's okay.
Right.
You didn't need to be Charles for us.
No.
I mean, it's fine.
But he was Charles for us.
He was Charles for us.
I miss when low-budget movies look, and I've said this before, but when low-budget movies look like every other movie. Because this didn't look like... We know it's low-budget because you look at it and you go, oh, okay, that store is crappy, and that's crappy, and the house is crappy, and whatever. But the camera quality and the costume quality, it almost looked like you were watching like real things going on.
Presumably because there would be, I'm guessing, with the low-budget movies, like...
Well, there was no video cameras.
There was no video cameras.
Well, there was probably just video cameras.
If you raised any money, you had to raise enough money to get yourself a camera and a boom.
Right.
You know what I mean? And once you've done that, well, then you've got something that looks like a movie.
Yeah.
And that's why the rest of it, like the toy store is obviously in like a, burned-out shop.
Right.
And that's why it looked the way that it did. And that they filmed it in the local Lothario's tiger-filled house, And the orphanage was, like, super weird as well.
Right.
But that's okay. But again, like you say, it adds... All those things add to the, like, slightly bleak, hopeless feeling that permeated the entire movie.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. It was a very good Christmas movie because it was so bleak.
Yeah.
I liked it.
The key word here is tiger and...
Yes, tiger bleak.
You're probably going. I think it probably all comes down to a William Blake story.
You think?
Because of Tiger, Burning Bright.
No, I get it. I was looking forward to seeing how you span out Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Because Blake sounds like bleak.
That's it.
And he wrote a thing about a tiger.
That's it. That's your theory.
That's it. That's your theory.
I think that's more free association.
Yeah, that is exactly what it is.
Than making
okay, but I love it. I love the grandpa. I love her.
Yeah, the grandpa was a strong opening.
I love the guy in the convenience store who's really miserable. That makes me laugh.
Yeah, they all hate Christmas. The grandpa hates Christmas. The guy in the store hates Christmas.
I like the father in the car at the beginning doing the kind of non-committal smile.
He said a word.
And he said a couple of things. But he was driving along with the obviously glamorous wife because of what she had to do in the film. They clearly had called up someone like, do you have a local centerfold or something?
Right.
She struck me as someone who might have been...
Agreed.
In England, they paid 3 type back in the day.
Right.
A bit glossy, a bit...
I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
And she was doing a lot of talking. Right. Whereas the father had this kind of very kind of just benevolent but non-committal kind of half. In fact, he was about the only non-bleak character in the whole movie.
He was, but he looked as if he was one of those people that life just kind of passed him by.
Right, well, because his dad was in a mental house. And they'd driven hours.
And they never really...
They'd driven like 7 or 8 hours into Bleak Town to visit him, only for him to say
stay
nothing
5 minutes.
and then go, well, kids, we've got to go.
And that was it.
And the kid was really funny. It was like, so Granddad doesn't say anything. He was like, no. He was like, so why did we bother coming then? Like, the kid actually said it. It was fantastic.
That was.
Oh, one of the great lines in it, which actually had me howling with laughter, was when he gets, at one point, it's the second Christmas. It's when it skips forward to like 74 or whatever.
Oh, right.
And the kid's about 9 or 10 or whatever he is. I think he's 8. I think the kid's 8 because then it skips forward 10 years and he's 18. So he's 8 years old. And he's been sent up to his room because he was bad or whatever by the old crotchety nun. And he goes a-wandering and he comes across and the young nun says, oh, you've had enough time up here. You can come out to play now. Put your coat hat on, come down and play snowman or whatever. And he hears panting and moaning, and he goes along through the corridor or whatever, and sees what I'm assuming was probably the caretaker and the maid or something,
or like
getting it on or something. It wasn't a nun getting
it. It might have been like some of the orphans, but like some of the orphans were old, I think.
Oh, like teenage orphans?
Like 18, 19-year-old orphans.
Okay,
I don't know. I don't think they wouldn't. If you'd come up to them and said, "Is that the caretaker?" They're going, "Oh yeah,
sure,
caretaker.
right, yeah." They hadn't thought about it.
Yeah,
it was just and they weren't even on. They were just on a mattress. There was no sheet.
They were on like stacked mattresses.
It was really grimy.
It was excessively grimy.
Miserably grimy.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were also, everyone in this movie made love without moving at all.
They did. He was very fond of the female leg. He was extremely fond of the female leg. And the nipple.
So anyway, he witnesses this. The nun catches him, beats the two who are making love with a belt.
Right.
And then comes downstairs to find the child. And when she comes downstairs to find the child, his younger brother, who was there, kind of goes, what does he say? He says, "What's going on?" or something. And the other kid says,
"What's wrong?
What's wrong?
What's wrong?"
And he was like,
he said, "What's wrong?" He said, "Your brother's a nutcase."
Okay, that's what's wrong. Yeah.
Which I really like.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Although, like, the kid then, because he must have been like.
Yeah, he grew up slower than the other guy.
He got a lot slower.
He grew up a lot slower than...
Because he was I think it was 10 years between the second Christmas and the last Christmas.
So maybe he was 4.
When he went from 18.
And he was 14 at the end.
Oh, okay, I could maybe believe that, yeah.
But you're right, there was a little inconsistency.
No, I could maybe believe that.
But
that was good, and I enjoyed it.
He goes, "What's wrong? What's going on?" It's like, "Your brother's in that case. That's what's wrong." I love that line. I love the sighing police chief. He's amazing.
He was great.
I even liked the guy who ran the shop, which I recognised. He's an actor you've seen in other stuff.
Yeah, he was good. I liked him.
He's about the only guy in the movie you would recognise, I think.
Sorry, I got all excited then. There's a cab out front, and it's advertising something called Jonathan Adler or something. Anyway, it looks to me from here like it's just Nathan Adler, and that was the name of the character that David Bowie played on the first Bowie album I ever bought that I thought was fucking awesome. And it was going to be like the first of loads of these. He plays like a private detective in the future. And it's produced by Brian Eno, and it was fucking terrific. And he never made a sequel. And I thought it was a cab advertising, like Bowie was doing a movie based on Nathan Adler. I was really, really excited. And then it turned out to be some bloke named Jonathan Adler who makes shoes. I'm a bit disappointed about that.
Just saw a tiny glimpse into your mind.
Yeah?
It's a hectic, disastrous place.
I'm perpetually disappointed.
Yeah, desperately clasping at a straw from a bygone era that will never return.
Oh wow, that's bleak. Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
I used to do it all the time.
Oh my God.
I would go into, do you know what I would do? I'd go into, back when I was a big Python fan, I would go into bookstores and go to the bookshops. I would go into the humour section, which was always like one miserable fucking rack that nobody ever looked at. That had a lot of Bernard Cribbin says "Whoops, Christmas" or whatever, some joke book or something. But you would see like Monty Python or something on the spine of a book, and I'd be like, "It's a book I haven't seen. I'm really excited." And you would pull it out, and it would just be like a repackaging of one that you already had 3 times,
whatever it was.
Yeah. And you would just be like,
I still got that. Yeah. Well, it wasn't. It's just because Nathan Adler is
Right.
I saw the name.
I understand.
It's very unique.
Let's not go over it
Place
again.
it.
Right.
We could talk about it some more.
No, it's not. But I like how I almost pushed you into a pit of despair then.
I almost took up an axe, put on a Santa costume, and started killing all the people in the diner.
No, it would make more sense if you put on a trilby hat and a trench coat and became a detective of the future, considering that was the impetus for your despair.
But it was, you were the impetus of my despair.
Okay, then you dressed up as me.
You were
then.
the agent of my despair.
You would have to dress up as me then.
In fact,
and have
I'm going to get one of those T-shirts that instead of having the arrow and reading "I'm with stupid," I'm going to get it for when I'm with you. That reads "I'm with the agent of my despair."
That's fine.
And with an arrow pointing at you.
I like that
because that's where you are.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's what I'm gonna be from now on. The agent of Jim's despair.
Well, on that note, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Chief. No, it was a good fun. I enjoyed the movie.
I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the atmosphere of watching it at the cinema.
Yeah, thanks for finding it, dude. That was great. And I don't know if it's playing in other towns, but I know Fangoria is doing a tour. So.
Oh, there we go. So
although this is going up on Christmas Eve, so no one's gonna care. So that's me, your host of the Afternoon Diner, and
Merry Christmas.
In the bleakest
For
diner,
God's sake, cheer up. Like, put on a Ross Abbott special.
In the bleakest diner we've eaten in yet, in the corner of Bleaktown, on the edge of Nowhereville and Despair Town.
This is the agent of your despair. Wishing you a Merry
Thank you very much, holiday campers. This is the agent of your despair, bidding you a fond farewell and a hearty good night. We're going out tonight with a clip from Nathan Adler.
If you're going to be the agent of their despair and you're the DJ, it should never be. And here's Phil Collins with Walking in a Winter Wonderland.
And here's Phil Collins reminding us of people less fortunate than ourselves this Christmas with Another Day in Paradise.
And here's Phil Collins.
And CBS would like me to remind you that they're having a half-off special on razor blades and other sharp accoutrements this season.
But bandages are full price.
Bandages are in fact double price.
Yeah, double the price. Bandages, half the price of razors. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
We can't leave it there. It is a beautiful world. Listen to some Nat King Cole, eat a mince pie, and you'll be fine.
But if that doesn't do it for you, there is always this fair option.
There's always there is always rewind, listen to the beginning, keep listening to this podcast over and over again until you snap, dress up like Santa,
dress up like us,
murdering.
No, he dressed up like Santa because he witnessed Santa.
So people would have to. I'd have to dress up like you, and have to get myself a beard.
Yeah, and a big nose and goggly eyes and stupid hair that
you
doesn't
don't have
work.
Stupid hair. You've got lovely hair.
No,
I like it.
It doesn't work.
Merry Christmas.
So te repito, Lucy, lo que tienes ir trabajando para llevar el fried filet dinner.
It was a good one, I think.
It was.
Bleak. Yeah, it was pretty good, I thought.
I honestly think that we are living in Silent Night, Deadly Night. I wouldn't be surprised if we step out and across the road there would be a warehouse store called Ira's Toys, on which is painted the bleakest mural
We're
ever.
living in like year 6, because it was like year 1, year 3, and then year 15. And we're like, when's year 15 going to turn up? We're just sitting in a nowhere town and nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Praying for our own demise.
We've probably lost our jobs down the mine or
down Ira's Toys.
Yeah. We only had a job, it was only for a man. There had to be a man who was all muscular because it was working in the stockroom, and old Jeff who runs the stockroom, king of the stockroom, he does nothing.
That was weird. That was weird as well. You go,
shirts.
you think he's just a kid? Well, have a look at this. Yeah, he just looks like an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, I know they must have wanted like Hulk Hogan or something. You know what I mean? He was supposed to be like big and strong.
It would have been hilarious if he was clearly a 45-year-old man.
That would have been cool.
You want to step in here, Jeff?
Yeah. Oh, do you think he'd look like a kid? Do you? No, he looks like giant haystacks.
Yeah. He looks like Hillbilly Jim, the wrestler.
Hillbilly Jim, the wrestler. Oh, Merry Christmas, son.
Merry Christmas. We should, but no, I'm happy with this to be the.
Yeah, me too. It's bleak, but I like it.
Yeah.
Christmas, eh?
For Christmas.
Can we get the check ready? Thank you very much.
Well, there you have it. That's the show. And thank you ever so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed putting it together. Well, look, it's been a fantastic year. I want to thank everyone listening for all their support of the After Movie Diner over the last 12 months. Thank you for all the downloads. Thank you for all the emails. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for everything. Please do keep listening. We've got a wonderful New Year's Eve show coming up. It's going to be a lot of laughs. And then, of course, you've got January. We've got our entire Original Gangsters month. That is going to be fantastic. Lots of surprises there as well. So please do keep listening to the After Movie Diner. Please do visit www.aftermoviediner.com. Bookmark that site because everything we do, whether it's on the Diner or over at Dr. Action and the Kick-Ass Kid commentaries, is on aftermoviediner.com. So please do bookmark that and also listen to Dr. Action and the Kick-Ass Kid commentaries. This week, they've just done their Christmas Die Hard commentary. So when you're done with this, if you're not too bored or stressed out or annoyed with my voice, please go over to Dr. Action and the Kick-Ass Kid commentaries and listen to that. That's over at www.dractionkickass.blogspot.com, or where can you find it? That's right, I just told you, over at aftermoviediner.com. Go listen to that. And now, coming up, it's our Christmas song this year, The Ballad of Silent Night and Deadly Night. Take it away and enjoy it. Thank you. On a silent night, but a deadly night. It is a silent night, ha, 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 but a deadly night. Well, Billy was a boy just the age of 5, when and wondering what it means to be alive, when his parents took him on a trip to the Utah mental facility, like you do, because there was his comatose grandfather there for him to see. Well, with the parents in the other room, all Gramps did awake with such a madness and a malice, his face did shake, and he filled little Billy with confusion, panic, and fear. Ooh. He said,
Christmas Eve is the scariest damn night of the year.
And on the way home, well, wouldn't you know, Santa killed his parents up before his eyes, and now he's heading to an orphanage to be abused, tied to a bed and filled with lies. On a silent night, about a deadly night. It was a silent night, ha, 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 but a deadly night. Now little Billy, just a boy of 8, having to endure the mother's superior's hate. She seemingly takes every single opportunity to further fuck him up sexually and seasonally. Oh yeah. She beats a couple just for making love, and with Christmas she doesn't push it more like a shove. And that day on Santa's lap was more than he could bear. And now he's constantly plagued by reoccurring sexual nightmares. At this point it's really hard to believe nobody could see the future, that little Billy would grow up to be a Saint Nick shit butcher. On a silent night, but a deadly night. I said a silent night, ha, 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 but a deadly night. So Billy, all grown up, he goes to work with toys, and for a while he's filled with all kinds of joys. He's got his eye on his co-worker for whom he genuinely cares. Well, day by day is okay, but he still has those odd nightmares, oh yeah. But then one day he's taken by surprise, a Merry Christmas banner is unfurled before his eyes, and suddenly those feelings run deep inside him much. Ooh. And the murderous instincts in his gut he has to purge. And after the stockroom man ruins his possible girl, everyone in this bleak town, well, he must now kill. On a silent night, night. It was a silent night. A deadly night.
Take it away, Alan.
And so he rampages throughout the town, wherever fornicating teenagers are to be found. And he also kills a bully while he's riding on another boy's sled. Well, maybe he's just helping the other kids to get ahead. See what I did there? 1, 2, 3. Well, a policeman shoots another Santa by mistake. In reality, a defo priest, a shitty error to make. Not that anyone in this town cares, apparently. They're all filled with life's so meaningless futility. And now the orphanage kids are sufficiently traumatized. There's been not one but 2 Santas shot down right before their eyes. On a silent night, oh, a deadly night. It was a silent night, but a deadly night. A silent night, a deadly night. A silent night, and a deadly night. If there's a lesson here for all of us to learn, it's something to do with children and showing some concern. And I don't know, maybe don't rape, beat, or kill. But seeing as we haven't learned that lesson yet, I guess we never will. I guess we never will.
There are men, and then there are second unit podcast men. The podcast you've just been listening to is part of the Second Unit Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at 2upn.blogspot.com or on Facebook under the Second Unit Podcast Network. Our fantastic list of shows include Drunk on VHS, We Came from the Basement, No Budget Nightmares, The After Movie Diner, Dr. Action and the Kick-Ass Kid, and Bloodbaths and Boomsticks. Take one podcast into the shower. Don't be a blithering idiot, Alan. We can give you the multiple podcast cleansing system all in one place that your hair deserves. Our programming is available across all platforms from iTunes to Podomatic, TalkShoe to Stitcher, so you have absolutely no excuse. Listen today, and a free naked person of your choice will be shipped from Thailand to your door in a matter of weeks. The Second Unit Podcast Network, bringing you the action and leaving the boring stuff to the other guys. Bloody hell. Who does a girl have to blow around here to get a decent